end of time.
O'clock.
Hi everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday night, and if you are in the United States, it is Thanksgiving Eve.
Mm-hmm.
So woohoo! I have the day off tomorrow, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I think a lot of people do actually. And we're gonna stuff ourselves.
Yep. I got basically
food.
everything prepped.
Yeah.
They made cornbread fucking yesterday. That's for the stuffing. Today did the corn. Fucking sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes. Fucking got the stock pot ready.
Yeah, seriously, it's been smelling really good in this house like since yesterday.
Only thing
the cornbread, bacon, and all the other stuff.
Only thing I gotta do is mix the cornbread, put it in a turkey, bake the turkey, make the gravy.
Yeah.
And finish the rolls.
I'm excited.
That's it.
My favorite thing.
Yeah, I got that new kitchen, so it's a lot easier. Yeah.
Tequila says, "What's your favorite dish at Thanksgiving?" Ooh,
Turkey.
All of it.
Yeah, I even made cranberry sauce.
I like the trio of just like turkey. I like dark meat. I'll eat white meat too. I'm not picky, but it's just like I prefer dark meat. And the mashed potatoes and the stuffing, like kind of all.
You don't care about cranberry sauce, do you, that much?
I'm ambivalent about it.
Or the gravy.
It's good now if you're making a sandwich like the next day.
Yeah.
Got to put a little bit of glaze of cranberry in there. Give it a little sweet sour kind of tang to it. Nice.
I also got two pies baked. Apple pie and a fucking pumpkin.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes we do pecan too, but
I didn't do it this
man,
time.
I think last year we had like four pies, five pies. I was like, Jesus Christ! It's like, I love pie, but that's too much pie.
To be eating that shit for 4 days.
Because you kind of feel obligated to eat it because it's like you don't want it to go bad. You know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like, whoa, I just can't face it. You know what I mean? I can't really eat that much in one sitting, so it's like I have to kind of space it out, like during the course of the day. But the leftovers are kind of the best part, you know. So. But, you know, I'm, like I said, looking forward to it. Going to put the Mystery Science Theater Turkey Day Marathon on, which they still do online if you're an old school MST3K fan and didn't know that, because I know that was like a big tradition that they used to do on TV every year. But they still do it on their YouTube channel, and they stream it other places too. I think they stream it on Tubi or wherever, because there's a bunch of MST channels. So I always just have that on, like, all day long. So I thought that was...
It's me, Jen, my mom. Her mom was going to show up, but she can't come this time.
She might. I'm not sure. She's going to my brother's house.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, maybe I'll try and do both places. But it's like, I don't know if she's going to be able to do that. Because my brother lives pretty near her. And we live like an hour away.
Yeah.
So she might come, she might not. We're not really worried about it. We asked a couple of our friends to come, but it's like that sort of live around here. But, you know.
Yeah, they got places to go.
So it's just didn't work out. Because like I said, most of our friends kind of live at least half an hour from here, you know, and most of them had places to go, so you know what I mean. Let me see. Everybody's talking about all the stuff that they're making. Oh, Tammy says 13 o'clock. I can't even talk already. 13 o'clock podcast movie recommendation rec on Tubi. I actually did. If you're talking about the original Spanish version, I did a review of that on my Flickers of Fear series a while back. I think it was on there. It might have been my other channel, but I for sure did a review of that. And that's like easily one of the best found footage movies like ever made. The Spanish, I haven't seen the. I know they did an American remake, but I think it was called Quarantine. I haven't seen that, but I've seen the Spanish one, and it's great.
I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, it's great. It's just like it all takes place in like one apartment building. And it's kind of like a sort of like a disease, like a zombie outbreak kind of thing. But it's really, really well done.
Is it in Spanish?
Yeah, it's set in Spain.
Okay.
It's in Madrid, I think. But yeah, it's from the 2008. When the fuck did they make that? It's from the mid to late 2000s. But yeah, so I thought it was funny up here. Like, I saw that CB had commented. Let's see. Tequila says this should be a great topic. Yeah, I think it was Tammy that recommended this, because a while back we did a show about the Trail of Tears, and I think it was you, Tammy, but you were just like, oh, you should do a show about, like, the residential schools, and I was like, yeah, that would be a kind of a fucked up topic to talk about. So, you know, but I thought it was funny that CB said, first a spoonbender, now an episode about public schools in India.
Not in India.
These are not in India. These are in the United States and in Canada. They had them in Canada as well.
Yeah.
And this is something. The thing is, I don't know. I haven't been to school in a long time, but American history, as taught in public schools, is very sanitized. And I can't think of a single time that anyone talked about this shit in school. Like, I found out about it later, like when I was college age.
I didn't go to a public school, so I wouldn't know. It's just, from what friends told me, it was either super simplified or it was just bullshit. Because, you know, they don't have time to teach anybody anything.
Yeah.
And the kids don't really want to learn anything, so they just tell them whatever and make them happy. Because think about it, from the point of view of the school system, they're just trying to make money. You know, they're just trying to get them in and out. From the point of view of the fucking state government or federal government, they don't really care if they know anything. They just want them to be able to get a job. The way they see it, if you're not in college, then they don't really care about you. But really, that's just honest. And now anybody goes to college. If you just want to go to college, you go to college. That's getting to be kind of a scam too. They'll loan you all kind of money to go there and get you a degree in basket weaving, and you know you can't get a job with it. It's a scam.
Yeah,
the future will all be, you're going to learn through an AI program. It'd be much more efficient to do that. Give every kid a tablet or a phone, and say the phone's features do not unlock until you fucking reach certain goals, and you teach them that way. Just make sure they can read, write, and then they can do it advanced.
Well, I feel like a lot of like foreign language learning apps like work like that.
Yeah.
Which I should probably get into one of these days.
That way, you know, you don't have to worry about fucking being disturbed by fellow students or shitty teachers and if they don't want motivated, they don't want to learn, fuck them. A lot of kids that I knew, they just didn't want to learn. You know, and you couldn't do anything with them. So, you know, what are you going to do? You can't take a moron and make him a genius. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I don't think
can't absorb it.
Expecting to do that, but
well, it used to be, you know, only kind of intelligent people went to high school. Nobody else really went. You got a good job if you got to high school. And if you looked at what they were teaching, it was like a couple years of college. You had to know fucking algebra and shit, you know, to graduate from college or excuse me, from high school. Now you probably fucking graduate from college without having any algebra.
I wouldn't know. Like I said, I don't. You know,
I've
been out of school for a long time, and I don't have any kids in the school system. So,
they've lowered the standard in certain areas.
I'm not really.
Some areas it's okay, but
I don't know. It's not. I think it's not consistent across the board because some places I've heard that it's like harder.
Yeah.
Now that they've like actually raised the standards. But,
yeah.
Like now you have to have trig and calculus and stuff like that. Which when I was in school, you had to have algebra, trig, and calculus, which I did take. Were optional, but I took them anyway. But it's like you didn't have to to graduate.
I think in most school districts that's a fucking distant memory. It's a certain percentage of
like I said, I was
that
in
don't
high
even
school.
speak English.
I was in high school in the late '80s, so
yeah.
It's, you know, I'm sure it's. But like I said, it's not consistent across the board because every state, every region has its own kind of rules and shit. Granther says, Northern Michigan had several Indian schools run by the Catholic Church. Yeah, a lot of them were. Survivors still talk about hating the white man's God because of how they were treated. I was watching some documentaries about this shit, and because there are people still alive, because I didn't realize that this system went on until like the 70s.
Yeah. Those Catholic schools were fucking nasty, man. Fucking, they were notorious for all kinds of shit, up to and including pimping out the girls to fucking the cops and local politicians.
It wouldn't shock me if
they killed a nun behind that. Remember that fucking case?
Well, yeah. I've been wanting to do a show about that. I wrote about it, I think, but in my book.
Yeah.
But, And there was a Netflix documentary.
They weren't
about
all
it.
like that, but they were authoritarian and mean. Catholic schools tend to be mean.
That's what I mean, and I was going to kind of talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit, because even though not all of the American Indian residential schools or indigenous boarding schools, but they have like a bunch of different names, not all of them were run by Catholics. A large percentage of them were. But it seems like all of them, especially the Catholic run ones, were just
mean.
rife with abuse.
Yeah.
Well, because
the Catholic institutions were just mean. They
well,
just
the
had
thing
hundreds
about
of years of
any
it.
kind of, whether it's Catholicism or anything like that, anything that has that kind of authoritarian hierarchical structure like that,
With all that money.
and has money behind it, and you see these people, these children, as beneath you, savage, then really anything can be justified.
Yeah, but they saw people like that across the board. They were doing the same thing.
That's what I'm saying. That's
just
bad.
Homeless or homeless kids that lost their parents and shit. You know, they could be of any age. I think most of them were white. They were just abusing the shit out of them. The Catholics. Catholics are nice people. You know, grew up in Brazil. It's predominantly a Catholic country, but the average Catholic just walking around is chilled out.
Well, yeah.
And I think the average church they'd go to are chilled out. But some of these weird institutions, you know, they're taking care of kids and crap and fucking. One that they had in Ireland where what's her name? Where they were working them girls like slaves. What was
Magdalene Laundry?
Yeah, those laundry
about
prisons and shit like that.
Like Sinead O'Connor was in one of those.
Yeah, they just, you know, they're just nuns are mean. They're run by nuns, and nuns are mean. They're basically mean lesbians. You know, fucking by all account. Because I think back in the day, you know, if you were gay or lesbian and you wanted power and authority, you could run and hide off in a church. And if you were a pederast, you could hide off in the church. They protect you. So next thing you know, you got you still do it now. You know, you got a church fucking filled with fucking mean people, weirdo pederasts, and fucking people that are living in closeted lifestyles and shit.
And who think that other people are beneath them because they don't have the same beliefs.
Yeah, and then they get all fucking
and that they can use like
shit.
any means necessary to convert you because they're saving you.
Yeah,
you know. That attitude is just like it's behind like so many fucking atrocities.
Who was that was telling a story that when they were little boys, that one nun was making that other boy get up underneath the fucking chair that she would sit in and talk to the class, and he was up underneath her skirt.
Yeah, I think I kind of remember.
And then the thing broke. The fucking they went in there and loosened the fucking chair so it broke, and her ugly ass fell, and the fucking little boy was underneath there.
Yeah.
What country was that in? I think it was in England, I think, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
Wow. But they just did weird shit. It was just the institutions, you know. The Catholic institutions were corrupt.
Let's see. I saw something. Oh, Tammy said another show topic recommendation: Georgia Tan, the baby stealer from Tennessee from the 1930s and 40s. Yeah, I wrote that down. That's a good. I have like a couple baby stealer things that I've been putting in the polls like every now and then, but because that was also quite rampant. And Tammy also said Ric Flair was one of the babies stolen by her. Holy shit! Well, there's your little wrestling connection right there. So now how much you guys. The Georgia Tan, the baby stealer that I just said about.
A long time ago. I don't remember that.
Tennessee from 1930s to 1940s. She just said. Tammy also said about this topic, they've been finding mass graves at these schools. They just closed the last one in the 90s. Yeah, and really it was them finding a bunch of that stuff in Canada that kind of spurred, you know, Native American activist groups to kind of get, you know, the government to start investigating stuff here. And they have actually found like lots of graves, like unmarked graves. They don't like know who some of the kids are.
Yeah, that was kind of common though for back in these days. Yeah, I mean, even in the modern era, any institution that had people that were indigent, where they didn't really have relatives or they were prisoners, basically.
Well, these were prisoners, pretty much.
Yeah,
they had relatives. They just
but they would just bury
them. Were
them
essentially kidnapped.
They would bury them on site.
Yeah,
and
they did.
They would die of diseases. Plagues would go through the fucking population, and you know, it wasn't just in the school, just in the general location. A plague would hit, fucking people would die, and they just bury them on site. And the paperwork was kind of fucking wonky, And they're like, well, their parents never showed up. 30 years later, well, it's out there somewhere. There was no headstone, just kind of a general area where they buried them.
Yeah, I mean the thing about
it didn't mean they were killing them.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that a lot of them they think died of diseases because what happened in a lot of these places was they were very overcrowded. The sanitation was not great. They malnourished the kids.
Yeah.
They did horrible
feed them cheap
punishments
food.
on them and shit like that. So they weren't really, they overworked them. Like they made them essentially indentured servants.
It was basically like an orphanage, old school orphanage. They were like that too.
And so
prisons basically.
And they didn't really give them any medical care.
Yeah.
So when
if you got sick or hurt,
tuberculosis or something like that, when it tended to like go, and a lot of people died from that. Now, it wouldn't shock me if some people hadn't died from some of the treatment that they got, because some of the shit that they did to them, I mean...
Yeah.
There was one guy, I was watching this one documentary, and this one guy had been in one. Mm. And he said when he was a kid, he distinctly remembered one of the, I think he said a matron, like straight up punching this little boy dead in the face. Like so much so that his jaw just like went like that and it like opened his face up.
Yeah.
Like just pap, like that. And it's like nobody did anything about it. This is like a little kid.
Yep.
And he said
crazy.
Another thing they did too is that if you did something bad, which we'll get into like the innocuous shit that they thought was bad, they would make you strip all your clothes off and run the gauntlet. Like they'd put all the other students like on the side of you and like make you hit them.
Yeah, it was a weird thing about a lot of these weird Catholic things, and it wasn't just them. I remember hearing like orphanages would do that shit. There was always kind of a you're going to take your clothes off type of deal. It's always just like
it is very
suspect,
common.
very
like I said,
suspect,
very sus.
Kind of.
Why is everybody such fucking pedophiles?
Because you had pedos working in there.
Jesus.
And
it's just like alarmingly common.
Yeah, well, who would want to work in a child's prison? Somebody who'd want to take advantage of prison.
Yeah, like who would even want that?
I wouldn't want to work in a child's prison. And that's what a lot of these orphanages. That's basically what it was, a child's prison. And they died in there too. And they didn't feed them hardly anything. Porridge. That's another thing. Is
gruel.
If you're getting a very low protein diet, and it can have calories in it, but there's very low protein, very low in nutrients. You're extremely susceptible to diseases.
Yeah.
I mean, one wrong move, you just get an injury. You may not really recover from that. And your growth is going to be fucked up for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it ruins your entire life.
Ruins their fucking bone, their bone structure and shit. And this is just an era when life was cheap, man. And if everybody was, if you didn't have a family, and you fell into the clutches of any kind of state institution or religious institution, you were fucked.
Pretty much,
because they were just going to make
it. You couldn't advocate for yourself.
Yeah, they were scams. They were a way of getting money out of the federal till, and the last thing I wanted to do was to spend all that money on those kids. They were just a means of getting money, and the more efficiently they could run that place, the more profits they would get. So they hire shit people working. Who were fucking pedos and crap and fucking cruel motherfuckers, psychos. They hire shitty food, the worst possible medical, the worst possible education. The teachers would be terrible. That's what created Panzram, one of the worst fucking homosexual serial killers in mankind's history. What was his name? Carl Panzram. Yeah, he came out of a fucking orphanage first, and then like boys' prisons, and then real prison. And he just kind of got worse and worse as he went.
Count Orlok says, did y'all ever watch 1923, the second prequel to Yellowstone? They showed religious schools' cruel treatment of Native Americans. You know what's weird about that? I haven't seen it, but several of the documentaries I watched, at least like a few people would comment, it's like I had never heard of this until they saw that. Yeah. So it's kind of the first time. Like I said, they do not teach this in American schools as far as I'm aware, or anything like that. I don't even remember, like I said, I think I said this on the Trail of Tears show, I don't even think they taught us about that. They might have mentioned it in passing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like they didn't like drill down on it or anything like that.
Yeah. Even that Mother Teresa shit was all bullshit. They
Dude,
sent
we
you to
did we did a show about her.
Yeah, they sent you to Mother Teresa. It was just basically like a prison, and you were just sent there to die. You weren't going to get any treatment.
Yeah,
They
like
just
I
sit you
said,
around
it
like you
just
die.
seems like, and I know, like, most boots on the ground religious people are fine. They're just
Yeah.
lovely, but just like most people are fine. You know what I mean? Most people aren't raging psychos or anything
Yeah.
like that. But it's just kind of like the mindset of that, the mindset of religion, especially people that are like true believers, like she evidently was, that really leads to some very, very, very bad.
Well, there was an element of
places.
scam though too.
Well, that as well,
Just
but like I
scam.
said, that's just kind of
Yeah.
par for the course. That's just
Yeah.
kind of like having that mindset. Like I said, it's you can justify anything because in your mind you're doing something good, so the end justifies the means. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's a really, really fucking dangerous path to go down. But they think they're good people, I guess.
Yeah, Tammy says that they weren't orphanages though; they were stolen. But yeah,
That's what I mean. And these
Yeah.
people had families.
yeah, but they were
had-
running it like it was an orphanage. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I
It was
mean,
just-
yeah,
it-
we're just saying that, like,
Right.
during this
they
era,
run it like it was
no one really gave much of a crap about kids in general.
No, no.
And especially if you were Native American, which a lot of people did see as lesser. The weird thing about these schools, I guess this is kind of darkly funny, but they were sort of established. When they were established, it was seen as kind of like the enlightened alternative. Because, you know, it's better than just like massacring them, right? Which is what they'd been doing before. So now they were like, so that was kind of like the progressive alternative. It's like, well, hey, you know, they could be just as good as a white man if we take them and teach them our ways, which are clearly superior. So that was seen as the enlightened alternative during this time period, rather than just wiping them out, which, like I said, which is kind of what they've been doing, or forcing them onto reservations or whatever. Like I said, when we talked about the Trail of Tears, they thought they were helping, I guess.
Yeah, I think they just would just. There was probably several layers of it. You had people that were willing to fund it; they could get paid if they funded it, and then they would say, "Yeah, we'll have this. We'll have these little places, and we'll educate the natives. All right, so they can assimilate into society better." And then they said, "But we had we'll take them from their parents because they it's like CPS, Child Protective Services. They can't raise them right." They're just drunks out on
Yeah,
this.
they're
They're not
literally
making any money. They're us on this reservation. So we'll take their kids, and the next generation we won't have these problems with them.
And it was compulsory.
Yeah. So then it gets handed down to the next person and says, yeah, that sounds good. Matter of fact, what's my budget? So then they start making up a damn facility. And they start realizing, how are they going to profit off this? So it starts becoming weaponized. Whenever you take a so-called charity or a good idea, but then you give it a budget, it starts to become weaponized. So they're like, okay, we need to pack this thing full of kids. We don't care how you get them. So they're taking them from good families on these reservations. You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, that's
you
what
can't
they were
raise
doing.
that kid.
They took all
Right.
of the kids.
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
they made it the law
Right.
that you had to.
Right. Well, and that's another way of saying, like, well, instead of having these outside us supporting these outside people in this little reservation, we're going to make them Americans. That's what they're thinking. But then you get other guys involved with it who don't give a shit. They just want to make money off the program. They don't like these people.
It's gonna attract all kind of bad.
Yeah, it's going to attract a lot of fucking bad shit. So it's going to go south real quick.
Yeah, Tequila says, like the Slavic children with Aryan characteristics that were stolen and given to German families in World War II. Yeah, it's essentially
Exactly, same thing.
It's essentially the same
Same
thing. But yeah, so it's not just an American thing.
Right.
It goes on kind of everywhere. But yeah, I'm just like I said, it's kind of a bummer topic, but
Stealing people's children go back thousands and thousands of years.
well, yeah, like I said, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's okay.
All those
I'm just
harems,
saying that-
all those Middle Eastern harems and shit. But they're not telling you those are all captured Irish girls. Fucking the pirates would capture them on the fucking. They capture whole Irish towns. They grab all the fucking men and make them fucking galley slaves rowing boats, and then the Muslims would take all the women and they'd sell them off as slaves, and they'd end up in harems, harams. And that shit was going on forever. So it's not just the white people. White people got enslaved too. We were fucking slaves to the Arabs.
Well, like I said, anywhere there's humans, because
They're gonna enslave each other.
Kind of the worst.
Yeah. the first action of the United States Armed Forces with the Marines was to go after the Barbary Coast pirates, and it was because of white slavery. They were fucking tearing the Europeans up, and they had a lot of American prisoners, and they were selling them into fucking harems,
Yeah, like
making slaves and shit.
I mean, much like anybody that didn't really have any power, like if you were poor or something like that, like, yeah, you could absolutely become a slave even if you were white.
A lot of the ones that were getting enslaved by the Arabs were rich people because they were on ships. They were passengers on ships, and pirates and fucking Barbary Coast pirates would attack the ship, divide them all up, kill some of the men. If there was useful man, they'd make him some kind of slave. And then any young woman, she ended up in a harem. She get auctioned off.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah. Tom Baker says, I know nothing about this topic. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. But yeah, it was pretty rampant. It went on for quite a long time. The first ones that were kind of started by missionaries, like started in like the mid 1600s. And the last one, I mean, there were still some lingering ones in the 90s. I think at that point, mostly it had been taken over by, the tribal elders or whatever. I think the last one that was like this kind of thing that we're talking about, I think was maybe 1969 or maybe 70s. I'm not real clear about that. But so this was still going on like in our lifetimes. Not to the extent that it was back then, but still not fucking great. And like I said, I've seen several documentaries that had people that were older but not that old that were in them, or whose parents were in them. So it's still, it was still a thing that's in people's living memory. You know what I mean?
Sounds like more of an attempt to just break down Indian society.
Well, that's exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to make them not
Indians
the way they were.
Yeah, you just take all.
You have to be like us.
You take the kids of a reservation, and that's the future generation. So the old just die out. You don't have to worry about taking care of a reservation after that. It's gone. So in a way, it's saving money.
That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to assimilate
assimilation,
them
by force.
Yeah, like forcible assimilation is what it was. They called it civilizing them, of course, because of course that's what they would say. But yeah, in the process, like I said, I've seen interviews with a lot of people that were in them or whose parents were in them and told them about it.
Yeah.
And they were just like, the shit resonates like throughout the generations, because the kids that were sent there were most of them were horribly abused or malnourished. They were not allowed to speak their native languages. They were not allowed to wear their regular clothes. They were not allowed to do anything that was quote unquote Indian.
You also don't want to give the impression that this is what happened to all Indian reservations. It was just some of them, because they wouldn't be around. And then there were some Indian tribes. Each Indian tribe or Indian nation, this is a good way to put it, had their own destiny. So, some of them never went to war with the United States. Were allies through the whole thing, like the one Tories family came from. They were up there in Washington State. They were almost kind of like Eskimos or Scraly. What was the name of the tribe that she was in?
She's not Inuit, is she?
What's that?
She's not Inuit, is she?
No, she's not. She kind of looks Inuit, but with blue eyes. But her dad works in Washington, D.C. with Indian Affairs. Yeah, Tory Martin. But what was the name of that tribe she was with?
I can't remember now. It's been a while since I've seen her.
Not Dan.
But they had like...
and then Lakota were part of the U.S. Army for a long time, too. So just each tribe was kind of treated differently depending on what the situation was. But the Lakota were... Most of the U.S. Army, the cavalry, for a long time during the 1800s were Lakota Braves. And you can see photographs, huge fucking books, like yearbooks from Army units of just Lakota guys in U.S. Army uniforms, fucking blue and gold and on horseback.
The Lakota were actually one of the tribes that had a lot of this shit happen to them.
Oh, they got some of this?
Yeah, okay. They got some of this too.
All right. Well, it's pretty
so,
fucking bad.
I mean, like I said, it was pretty widespread.
They were a big nation.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think it just affected...
Yeah.
you know, what? Yeah, it didn't wipe them out, obviously, but it's just because they're still around. But you know, they're still kind of fucked up about it, and you can't really blame them.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I was in the army with those
Tammy
guys.
said a lot of the survivors became alcoholics, and this is why. Yeah, exactly. Like I understand that. And Tammy said they were still forcibly sterilizing Native women as recently as the 1970s. Yes, that is true.
I was in the army with those guys. Lakota guys, and other tribes, other nations. I don't remember. A lot of Pacific Islanders too.
It's just
they love being in the army.
It seemed like, at least recently, it seems like there have been efforts to kind of push back. Like I saw, a lot of tribal schools that are opening, like trying to teach the kids the language again because they don't want it to get lost. A lot of native languages have been lost because of this kind of shenanigans.
The forcible sterilization, though, that was widespread. That was happening all throughout the South. That was happening in fucking Appalachia, too.
Anybody that was seen as, like, undesirable.
Yeah. Anybody who...
For whatever reason.
If you got a criminal record and you wanted to get out of your sentence, sometimes you can voluntarily sterilize yourself. But there was like, you're going to do 10 years or you do the sterilization. Not much choice there, is there?
That's not really
not a really big choice, yeah. And then
I mean, technically it is, but not really.
Yeah, they would go into areas too that there were areas in the United States in the early 1900s that they were just like find them because there was no roads leading to it. It's just like, damn, look at this, and there'd be like a small community out there that had been inbreeding for like 100 years. They were all fucked up, and they'd go in there and they'd sterilize all those people
because nobody told them, hey, don't have sex with your sister.
There were no choice. There were no roads leading out. There were no roads leading out. It'd be like a fucking 10 or 12 houses right next to each other on the fucking same plot with no roads going in and out of there. Just like something out of fucking Friday the 13th. Your dating pool was just everybody you're related to.
Just like 10 people.
Yeah. There's all kinds of weird shit. And that all was all that Margaret Sanger fucking eugenics programs that they were doing. Black people, criminals, Indians, fucking rednecks that had gotten inbred, all kinds of stuff. They've called them human weeds.
That's always nice. CB says, an orphanage in 1800 had kids just disappearing. It turned out the staff was killing them. See, that kind of shit does not shock me at all, sadly. Especially back in this era when you could absolutely get away with it.
Yeah, no
because,
DNA.
Like I said, there's...
Yeah.
I feel like until relatively recently, people kind of just thought that, I mean, like you said, life was cheap.
Life was real cheap.
It's like, I have 10 kids. I'm sure they were sad, like, when they died and stuff, but it's just kind of like, we've got other ones.
Yeah, and they weren't related to any of those kids.
You know?
You're seeing them as children, you know what I mean? Wow, you know, those people didn't give a shit. They weren't their kids.
No,
there were
of course
lots
not.
of kids.
No, I'm just saying that just in general, I think even parents at that time maybe had a little more of a laissez-faire attitude.
Yeah. You were expected that some of your kids were going to die.
Because it's like, it happened, sadly, like I said, and a lot of it was because of sanitation and nutrition and shit like that, like preventable shit.
Yeah, but... and orphanages killing some of the kids in there, that's actually kind of like, I would almost kind of expect that in the 1800s, that kind of shit would happen. Because look, that same kind of shit was happening in hotels. They fucking torn down old fucking, not really hotels, we call them places where people would spend the night on the roads. It's not really a hotel, what do they call it? Inns.
Like an inn, yeah.
Like an inn. And they'd fucking excavate an area, fucking building something there. There used to be an inn there a long time ago. They'd find like fucking 15 dead people buried next to each other. You're like, what the fuck is this? Nobody knows. Could it be that...
Probably some Belle Gunnis shit.
I think it was some Belle Gunnis shit. You show up, you have money.
We did a show about her, by the way.
They get to know you. It turns out nobody knows you're there.
Hit you in the head with a shovel and bury you in the backyard and take all your shit.
Yep. That's what I think what that was.
And like I said, we've heard about Belle Gunnis and like people like that, but it's just like, I'm sure that was way more widespread than we know about.
Because back then you could get away with it.
Because you could totally get away with it back then.
Yeah, cannibalism more common too. People don't realize.
So like I said, I don't really think, that's why I don't believe in that good old days kind of shit or anything like that. It's like shit was fucking horrible back then. I wouldn't do it back then. No way. You could get away with anything pretty much. Look at fucking Jack the Ripper, for Christ's sake. He was just out in the middle of the fucking street cutting people open legit, like taking their organs and stuff. Yeah. Nobody caught him.
In London.
Yeah.
Densely populated.
Like one of the most densely populated cities in the world.
Yep.
I mean, to this day.
Think of what you could do here in fucking North America.
Damn.
With all this open space.
That's what I'm saying. You could just be traveling with somebody, decide, hey, I don't like this motherfucker, hit him with a rock, and just bury him in the desert and go about your life. No one would ever know about it.
There were mountain men that were just confirmed cannibals. Fucking Jeremiah Johnson was a cannibal, liver eating Johnson is what they called him. But he was at war with the Crow Indian because they killed his wife. She was a Flathead Indian, and evidently he killed every crow he saw for a long time, and he'd eat their liver, and probably more of them, because he claimed to have fucking killed one Indian with a leg that he cut off another Indian when he was because they captured him and tried to sell him to his enemies.
That's a good story.
It's a good story.
We did a show about him.
He walked 100 miles back home with that with that guy's leg and was gnawing on it because it was frozen.
Protein.
For energy. Yeah.
It's like the world's
he
grossest
did exist.
protein bar.
He
was a real guy.
He did exist. It's just that we don't know. There's so many wild stories
so many
about
crazy stories about him.
Yeah,
like,
you don't know what was true.
Exaggerated.
He was evidently quite a storyteller, but he's quite a storyteller if half that shit's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was also a bullshitter. But
I think he was, yeah. But he was definitely a badass.
At least they're fun.
He was a badass. The army hired him as a fucking scout and mercenary for a while.
Yeah, Tammy was saying about the forced sterilization. It's like these are just innocent women. They went to the hospital to have a baby, and the doctor would sterilize them at that time without any consent. Oh, while you're out, let's just do.
Well, that's because they could because the laws were set up that if the person was indigent, in other words, they didn't have set income,
they're just like,
that they could do that.
Yeah.
Because she's on that tribal, they don't have any real income. So
I'm just going to make an executive decision.
Yeah. Because the thinking of the time was, they'll overpopulate in there, and then they won't be able to feed each other. And we don't want a growing population of indigent people.
On cool people.
Because then we'll have to, yeah. There's something to it, though. You know, they saw it as, well, they're kind of parasitical. They're living off of us. And if their numbers increase, then the bill it takes to support them it goes up. So you can only have one child. So they're going to reduce your population. Each generation was 50% smaller. And the thinking of that time, they had no problem with that. They were doing it to white people too, you know. It didn't just
Although Tammy's saying this was in the 70s.
Oh yeah,
this wasn't like
they did it that they were doing it that late in the 70s. To white people too.
You'd be shocked at like shit that was still going on in the 70s.
They were fucking lobotomizing people in the 70s.
They were,
and giving people electroshock therapy just for like misbehavior. So
like minor
little shit. Yeah. So
that nowadays you just get talk therapy for.
Yeah, they had the laws were different then about what could be done to you based upon how much money you were making, what your mental status was, what your family thought about it, whether you had a family or not. There was all kinds of fucking.
Well, they didn't really have much concept of like bodily autonomy
no, you were a part of the state,
individual rights or anything like that. It just really doesn't. Seem, which, like I said, I wouldn't even want to go back like 50, 60 years. No chance. Much less like back to this fucking era.
Places like Mississippi and Alabama, Louisiana, probably Tennessee in the 70s. If you went to prison, they probably sterilized you. You could probably check that yourself, but that sounds like something they would do, whether you were a guy or a girl, because they had laws like that. And I wouldn't surprise you if that went on into the fucking 70s. But they were lobotomizing people and doing electroshock therapy way into the 70s.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about, because didn't we do a show about whatever that big famous mental hospital was? I can't remember. Because I think we talked about The Haunting, but then we talked about all the fucked up shit that went on there. I can't remember what the name of it is.
And then there was another thing is that county laws and state laws are very different depending on what kind of charges you had been charged with and whether or not they thought you were mentally sound. It's like you might have went to prison for something small, and then somebody there says, you know what, I think he's mentally imbalanced, and then all of a sudden they can unlock a bunch of, because the doctor said that, then that could unlock a bunch of shit that they'd have the right to do to you. Weird. It was just there was a whole industry of fucking locking people up into mental institutions, and lobotomy.
They used to do that to women big time. Like if women like were causing a little too much stir.
Yeah.
They'd be like, bitch crazy.
Yeah.
Husbands would have them locked up.
Bitch crazy laws.
The bitch crazy laws. That's what I call
bitch crazy laws. Yeah, and your dad or your mom could say that the kids were crazy and you'd lock you up, fucking mental shit to you, fuck with your brain.
You might never ever get out.
You might not ever get out.
You might not ever get out, and they did all kind of fucked up shit.
And they got money for the longer they'd keep you in there. So those institutions made money. They had to have a big supply of crazy people, and if they didn't have enough crazy people, they'd make some crazy people.
Yeah, because then they would expand the parameters of what constituted crazy.
What constituted crazy. And if you weren't
You're
crazy...
You're just an inconvenience to me, so I think I'm just going to have...
If you weren't crazy before you got there, you're going to be crazy once you get in there.
Oh, absolutely. And and that's the thing. Yeah. And that's kind of the... I think there was... I can't remember her name, but there was like a journalist that went undercover and checked herself into a mental hospital pretending she was a patient because she was doing an expose. And she's like, the horrible thing about it is that the more you try to protest that you're not crazy and you're just regular, the crazier you look.
Yeah.
It's like a catch-22.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like that. To me, that always seemed like super, super scary.
When these people pull out these horrors of the 1800s, though, I just laugh. I'm unfazed with it because people expect the 1800s to be some kind of a modern era or modern... No, there was fucking almost no difference between the 1800s and the ancient Roman period. They were real close.
Oh, Oracle says Nellie Bly. Thank you. That's who it was.
Yeah.
Thank you. I knew somebody would remember.
Ancient Roman period and the 1800s were really similar. There wasn't a bit... The only difference was that we had an industrial revolution. And the Romans were always on the edge of an industrial revolution. I'd favorably compare the Romans to the 1700s. Maybe mid-1700s, they're about like that. Now, the fashion wasn't the same. They did some shit that other people, Westerners wouldn't do in the 1700s. But a lot of the shit was real similar. So, and the knowledge, their knowledge and their understanding of things was real similar. So, 1800s, weird shit happening in the 1800s, early 1900s, that doesn't faze me a bit. Fuck no.
Count Orlock says, my aunt worked at the VA hospital from the mid-60s to the late 90s, and watching shock treatment was mandatory for job orientation, and she was traumatized. Yeah, I can imagine. I heard that some places were still doing it fairly recently, because they're like, oh, maybe it does kind of work after all, but, yeah, I'm fucking, don't do that, man, Jesus Christ. Yeah, but, I'm glad Oracle remembered it was Nellie Bly. I knew there was that she went undercover. And it was like this big... We should probably do a show about her. It's actually really interesting, like the story. Tammy said, yeah, like the Kennedy sister. Yeah, like Rose Kennedy. Yeah. And they, got her frontal lobes removed.
Yeah.
And not by her choice. Yeah, they were just kind of like, she's crazy. What does she care?
So my advice is do not have unrealistic expectations of human beings, man. Fucking...
Believe me, I don't. I have a very, very low opinion. Why do you think I like my cats more?
Yeah,
Come on now.
Yeah.
Like, at least they are what they are. They're pure beings. Human beings were generally a mistake.
And I remember the 70s as a kid, and remember the differences between California and Mississippi because I could travel in between the two, and that was just an entirely different world. I don't really think the modern world started until the internet started. I think that's kind of looking back on it. That's really when it started. Everything else just seemed primitive compared to that. It's because there wasn't enough flow of information. Now you have access to information that fucking it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and well, I mean, the thing is, in, like I said, the year of our Lord, 2025, lots of people are still fucking idiots. But
almost by choice.
Yeah, I think at this point it has to be a conscious choice just to be a fucking
or
idiot
just genetics
at this point.
Yeah.
Because you could learn, you just choose not to. Yeah, up until this point, and I don't want to excuse people of the past because they're intelligent. They could figure shit out. And I say that because during every era, no matter what fucked up shit was going on, there were always kind of a handful of voices of reason that almost sounded like modern people. So there were people that knew what was up.
Yeah.
It was just the vast majority of people were fucking stupid.
Most people are conformist. They go along with whatever the authorities tell them to believe in. And if the authorities are telling them, this is how you treat a crazy person, this is how you treat this kind of person, this is how... Because we're trying to make progress. This is the high-tech way. They're going to go with that. Because they don't have any other sources of information. You can go to the library and all the books are old. And the dude that's telling you to do this, he's working on up-to-date information. Up-to-date, 1827. You know, so people
So futuristic.
people tend people tend to just go along with what the thing is of any given era. But now you don't really have to do that. There's a free flow of information through the internet. You can see for yourself people's cell phone cameras or some shit that happened. You don't need a news agency to tell you what went down. You can just see it for yourself. So it's a totally different world.
Although I will note that as AI gets better,
now you're going to be fooled.
That's going to be a shit show also, because then you can see, look what happened, and that
and it didn't happen. Right. That's pretty frightening. Now, one thing that probably could happen is you'll have AI that can recognize AI, and it'll come out and it'll give you a warning. This is not a real image.
Yeah, they seem to be kind of trying to work on that.
Yeah,
I mean, they do it now, like for shit that you wrote, like you can submit it to an engine that will tell you, does this sound too AI-y, or can I change it or whatever. So I'm imagining that they are going to work on that. It'll probably progress like in tandem, I would think. It was kind of like an arms race. I kind of picture is what's going to happen.
And don't be talking to any boomers about any of this, because they have no idea what the fuck's going on. They don't know what the fuck is going on. And sadly, they're in charge of things.
Well, like I said, it's kind of sad because I think for most of human history, people looked to older people because they had been around a long time and they had wisdom and knowledge and stuff like that. But really, that broke. That is not the case anymore.
No.
So yeah, they're not the people you want to ask for any advice about anything.
I remember fucking when I was a little kid, my dad in his 30s and 40s, man, fucking, going through the 80s and the 90s, he fucking seemed to be real sharp. He hadn't changed much in his final years that I'd seen him, but he was still stuck in that fucking 1991. He was eternally frozen in 1991. He had because he didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
So he had no idea. His whole view of the world was through cable television, and just those few channels of news, and that was the world that he lived in, which is extremely narrow band, because those fucking propaganda outlets, corporate propaganda outlets, really all those are. So you'll never really know what the world's really like. And with social media and fucking X right now, you can X is great because you can just find anything that's fucking happening right now. You'll see the video. You'll also see a bunch of fucking comments and people fighting over it. Now it turns out that fucking half of those motherfuckers are from India, which figured that out. They need to start identifying people just because they're speaking English, talking about shit happening in the West, and they sound like an American doesn't mean they're American. It also doesn't mean they're human. Some of them, I think, are fucking AI bots.
A lot of them are bots.
So you got bots in there and foreigners trying to stir up trouble, and then they're getting paid for stirring up the trouble.
Yeah, I mean, we've known about that for a long time.
Yeah, but it wasn't. You couldn't see who was who. It's funny
now
that you can see where all the accounts are from. Shit started to make a whole lot of sense. Fucking the most outrageous ones were all from fucking India and Pakistan. Some kid on the phone.
Yeah,
and just millions and millions of followers. Millions of them. And he's in Pakistan. Probably making $200 a month.
I don't do Twitter.
What's that?
I don't do Twitter. Or shitter or X, because it's X-itter, so we call it shitter. But yeah,
whatever.
I don't do that.
What do you do?
No, I'm saying I don't use it.
I think it's just fucking interesting. A lot of cool shit on it.
Count Orlock says, oh, by the way, off the subject, Jenny Tom, the skull found in concrete in Massachusetts, you sent us that thing, was not a human.
I didn't think it was
or
real.
even a real skull, probably a prank.
Yeah, didn't think it was real.
Yeah, it looked kind of fake, honestly.
It looked like it was made out of stone. Here's the thing: if a skull was encased in if a human head was encased in concrete, it would rot, leaving an empty pocket with a skull in it. You'd actually see the face, just like it would be at Mount Vesuvius. That was fucking stone right up against the skull, which means it was a skull when it went in.
When it went in, yeah.
And then the skull itself looked like stone. So I was like, that looks like an AI image. I don't know what it was, though.
Or somebody just thought it'd be funny to put a fake skull in there.
Yeah. How would they know that they would be dig it up?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was on some site where they were deconstructing something.
Oracle says to Gramthers, what I find really sad is an art teacher showing her students famous paintings, and the kids believe they were AI generated because they didn't think humans could paint that well.
Yeah.
That's kind of horrifying, isn't it? But yeah, I see what they're getting at. But yeah,
They'll get over it.
yeah, like
As
I said,
you get
I
older,
think
you're just adapting to a new technology.
yeah, I'm not one of those people because, I'm interested in history and I read a lot of stuff like that. And every time a new technology becomes ubiquitous,
Yeah.
there's a large contingent of people who go, it's the end of civilization, but and they are never correct.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, there's always going to be upsides and downsides to anything, to any new technology. But I don't want to underplay it, but I don't want to overplay it either. Like, people will just adapt to it like they adapted to everything else.
Somebody quoted a guy from Japan who came to the United States and witnessed some of the very early electric light bulbs, and he was horrified. He was just thought that this shit was just that this is that this is the end of the fucking world.
Every technology has had that.
Yeah, how could mankind fucking defeat the power of nighttime? And this is going to be abused, Fucking people will be forced to work 24 hours a day.
Which is silly to think about nowadays, but it's like, because it's really not. I mean, it's just something you don't even think about
thought that
anymore.
He said that it would disrupt the human's natural pattern.
I mean, it kind of did.
Being awake and being asleep. It didn't really. No.
But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. You can turn the lights off, bro. It's okay. But you know what I mean? But well, it's just like now when you see quotes about, when TV first became really popular, oh, and my God, it's the end of civilization, will ruin everything. And same thing when the internet happened, it's the end of the world. Either that, or people would say, oh, it's a passing fad, like this is never going to catch on or anything like that. I think a few people did say that about TV, and a few people said that about the internet too, that it was just a passing fad, that it would never catch on. I'm like, little did they know. It's just funny to kind of look back on. But like I said, every new technology is always reacted to like that. Like, it's regular as clockwork. You know how humans are going to react to it, because humans are not essentially any different than they were when they lived in fucking caves. You know what I mean? So it's like they're going to react the same kind of ways. So I don't know. I just choose to. I use AI a lot. In my job, and it's fine. It's a good tool. It's helpful. I don't really like to rely on it, but it's good for like saving time. You know what I mean? Just, it's good for doing shit that's like tedious and I don't really want to do it. Like, you know what I mean? And I work in advertising, so it's just kind of like, whereas before, if some client had come to me and said, hey, I want an ad with an image of this really complicated, stupid thing, like, I would have to spend hours and hours making that shit in Photoshop, which, like I said, is really tedious. Whereas now, I can just kind of go to Sora or something like that and put in the prompt and generate, until something comes up-ish that I can use, or at least it can splice together. Saves me a lot of time, saves me the carpal tunnel syndrome. So, I'm not mad at it, is what I'm saying. And it's really good for giving me ideas for shit. Like, I don't really want it to wholesale write stuff, but it's good for coming up with prompts, like good for coming up with like ideas, like, oh, I need to write a story about this, like, give me like 20 ideas for that. And then I can just kind of put together the ones I want and do what I want from there. So it's good for that kind of shit. It's good for kind of spurring creativity, I've found. That's sort of what I use it for. Thank you very much. I used up all that flat root beer.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. I just saw it by the side there, so I was like, it was very flat, but that's all right. All right. So I guess we should probably get into the topics. Oh, Oracle says, I remember my grandma was scared of microwaves, and she learned to use one. Yeah, and it's like, I don't really want to be... I've always said this, I never wanted to be one of those old people that's just kind of like, oh, it's new technology, fuck it, I don't want to use it. Like I said, we go down to the McDonald's by our house, and it's kiosks. Like, there is a person back there. I mean, there's people cooking back there, obviously. But if you're a butthole and you just come up and stand at the counter, like, someone will come up and take your order like normal. But, I don't ever do that. Why? Like, I just order in the app on my phone, or I just go in there and order on the kiosk like a regular ass person. But, I've noticed, though, like, the few times that we sat in there to eat, that you can tell who's not gonna do that. Like, there'll always be, like, the boomer guy that walks in, or 2 boomer ladies that walk in, and I'm like, bet you $5 they're gonna just walk right up to the counter and stand there, even though there's nobody there, because all the people are cooking in the back. And they're just gonna stand there. That's exactly what they do, every single time. Whereas all the younger people, and I'm old, you know, I'm 53, but I still, you walk in, you go right to the kiosk. You pick what you want. They make it. They even bring it to your fucking table. I don't understand why that's hard. But, yeah. I don't get it. But without fail, you can tell who's just going to walk up to the counter and not even bother with the fucking kiosk. You can tell. So it's like, so I never wanted to be one of those people. I like that new shit. Like I said, the fewer people I have to interact with on a day-to-day basis, the happier I am.
Talking about that, to order and went through the robots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like it.
We can sit here and order McDonald's from here, and they just.
I ordered on the phone.
On
They're
the
just
phone.
like, I got the app. I got all kind of free
Yep.
shit in there.
Yep, get some free shit fucking off the app, and be like, we better be there in about 10 minutes. And fucking show up,
And they just give you the
they
bag.
give you the bag. You sit down,
You can just sit down and eat, or you can take it
and then
home.
they give you bonus points because you did that.
Yeah. People are missing out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Old people are missing out.
Yeah,
You get all kind of fucking perks.
they give you free shit if you order online.
I have so much fucking free shit in there.
Yeah,
Because we eat there all the time.
yeah,
I got
free
no
fucking
clubs
quarter
there.
pounders, free fucking pies.
I got all kind of free French fries and
Yeah.
milkshakes and all kind of shit.
Yep.
I just haven't used it, you know, because we don't eat there that often.
Yeah.
Maybe once or twice a week. All right, so I guess we should probably get into the fucking
Yeah, it's time. We can
topic,
go.
sort of.
They're
I
all
mean,
here. Everybody's
okay,
here.
so we sort of like kind of covered like a little bit of an overview, but this system, it was a system, and it kind of, the first glimmerings of it, I guess, were, you know, missionary type schools like in the mid 17th century, but they went up until quite, you know, the late 20th century. They were still kind of around, although I think probably the heyday was mid to late 1800s, it seems, although like a lot of shit was still going on in the early 20th century too. These schools, essentially, what they were trying to do was civilize, quote unquote, and assimilate Native American children into the Western European lifestyle. And they were essentially doing it by force. What they would do is that they would go onto the reservations, or they would go to wherever, you know, the tribes lived, and they would take their kids. A lot of them were teenagers, but, you know, some of them, I think the youngest ones were 5 or 6. Some of them were like little kids. And after a time, it actually became mandatory, if you lived on a reservation or anything like that, that you had to give your children to these. And a lot of them were boarding schools, and they were several hundred miles away from where the kids were from, where their families were. And they basically said, like, if you don't give us your kids, we're going to withhold food rations, funding, like, for the reservation and stuff like that. So you have to do it, or they might even put you in prison, because I think, like, some tribes did resist, and some of them were actually imprisoned for doing that, for resisting, hey, we don't want our kids to go there.
Forced assimilation.
So this forced assimilation is essentially what it is. So they were, in essence, kidnapping these children. And they would take them, put them in boarding schools, they lived there, and they would immediately strip them of their cultural identity. They were not allowed to speak their native languages. They were not allowed to wear their native clothing. They weren't allowed to do anything that was perceived as Indian in any way.
Yeah, they're going to become Americanized.
Or they would be beaten or denied food.
Now, what year did this start?
Put in isolation. Well, it was kind of piecemeal up until probably like the mid 1800s.
Okay.
Prior to that, it had mostly been missionary schools, and it was kind of scattered. But the system of it, I think, started around 1837 and then kind of built from there, right around that time period.
When did it end?
Some of the last ones, there were still some around in the
More or less,
90s.
Yeah.
But I think like the last, what we're talking about here,
Yeah.
was mostly 60s and 70s. I think that was, it was still kind of going on. Like I said, I don't think it was quite as bad.
Yeah.
But basically, and a lot of these kids, like I said, they were little, and some of them never saw their families again. were not allowed to go back to see their families. Some of them, if they did go back, they had been so changed by their experiences that they had no, they really had nothing in common with their families anymore. They couldn't speak the language anymore. They'd forgotten about all their shit. You know what I mean? So
that was the intent.
Yeah, that was exactly the intent. Sadly, like in a lot of cases, it did work. They said in some cases, like the kids would come back home, like after years and years away, and they would start like making fun of their tribal elders and stuff like that for their outdated ways and all this other kind of stuff. Because this is how we're doing it now. So they got fully like fucking assimilated. I guess. So it's kind of shitty. Like I said, in recent years, they've been trying to sort of undo some of the damage, or at least try to reverse it, where they're trying to like teach kids the native languages again, so the languages don't get lost. Because in some cases, because of this system particularly, I think over 100 native languages there's like really no one speaking them anymore because of this. Because what ended up happening is this is like a generational thing. It's like kids that were sent there and became westernized, and then they would have kids, and then they were like, well, we're not going to teach, even though they could kind of still speak their native language, we're not going to teach our kids that because they're not going to be able to get by in the world, so they would only teach them English. And so slowly, like, the languages became kind of forgotten. And like no one really spoke them anymore. So they're trying to, a lot of tribal schools now are trying to like reintroduce like the younger generation to the languages and stuff, so they don't get lost.
Yeah, some of these places are real nice too. I've seen documentaries about them. Other ones, some of them are casinos now. They got a shit ton of money. Other ones are just kind of fucking out in the middle of nowhere. There's no reason really to be there. The guys from that area, you know what I mean, they fucking end up going into the army or the service. They never go back. But I was in Mississippi the time I joined the fucking service. I never went back other than to bury my dad, Once you're kind of introduced to a larger world, you just kind of, fuck it, I'm going to get a job, man. I'm going to go to the club, Just that kind of, they're just like us.
No, Tammy said, they cut their hair off. Yeah, that was one of the first things they did. And a lot of tribes that long hair is sacred. Yeah, and a lot of tribes also, several people pointed this out in the documentaries that had been in these. They said the first thing they would do is they would cut all your hair off. And in a lot of tribes, the only time a man would cut his hair off was when he was in mourning. So they were like, and hair was like a big deal. And the fact that the fucking people that ran these schools knew that, and they said that was actually the couple guys that were in them and like that I saw these interviews with, they said that was the first thing they did, was they cut all your hair off.
Yeah, just like joining the army.
Yeah.
Well,
and a lot of these were kind of run like shitty military schools, really.
Yeah.
With all of this punishment and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's the Prussian model.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
That's what it is, yeah.
And like I said, they were not allowed to speak their native languages at all.
You go to basic training, that's the first thing they do. They'll issue you a fucking pair of BDUs, and then they cut all your hair off. And then all of a sudden, everybody looks the same. And that's the idea.
Well, it's a dehumanization conformity thing. I think in the the case of this though, whoever was running the because there was a model school, which I'll get into in a bit, and a lot of them like used that model. They knew that a lot of Native American tribes, it was like their long hair was like a big deal. It was like a source of strength, and it was kind of like a cultural signifier. And so that was why that was one of the first things that they did to them, was cut their hair
When we
off.
were going through it, we knew what it was. We were all looking forward to it. It was part of fucking the ritual.
Well, it's not really the same, is it?
Yeah, it is weird, though. Fucking, you go in there with regular hair, and everybody, you recognize everybody as an individual person. Then you don't know each other because you've only been together for a couple of days. And as a mass, as a platoon. And then everybody gets a haircut. And then all of a sudden, you don't recognize anybody again. And everybody is like...
Yeah, they're just trying to make everybody conform.
Yeah, like, we're all part of the machine now, you know. And it's...
You've become
also,
a cog.
you get like a feeling of like, the old me's gone. I'm here now. I've arrived. We're gonna work in this.
Well, like I said,
they're trying to delineate between past and future. It's a
which
ritual.
I guess is kind of the same, but it's not really the same thing because these people were taken forcibly. They didn't join because they wanted to.
Yeah, it's forced.
And two, this was done as an erasure of their cultural identity. That was why they did it.
I'm gonna come back and counter it again.
Why are you? I don't understand
I'm gonna
why
say
you're.
Because they did the same thing to us during the fucking during periods of draft. It's the same thing. It wasn't just.
And these are little kids. I mean, these aren't like 18, 19-year-olds.
Well, if you're talking about the 1800s, though, they didn't have a concept of childhood. They were all just people. Remember, they treated them all as adults, which is, that's just the way they were back then. They were mean.
Which is stupid.
Yeah.
Because clearly that's not the same.
Yeah, but they're definitely using what we would call the Prussian model. Yeah. Of putting somebody in an institutional fucking mindset. You're becoming institutionalized. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, but it's not like these people joined on purpose. They were kidnapped.
Yeah.
And made to be this way.
Well, the Prussian model is basically brainwashing.
Yeah, well, that's what this was.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't work in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids ran away or, you know, shit like that. Like, and they had all kind of resistance, obviously, from a lot of the tribes because this is fucked up. But, you know, some of the kids, I guess it did work on them because they were just little kids, but, you know, that was their intention. They wanted these people to be like us. That's what they wanted.
They're trying to get them to integrate.
You're not like, you know, we don't like you the way you are.
You're not like who you were. You're now new.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So, basically, what they think was kind of the first example of this. There was, in 1634, there was a French Jesuit priest whose name was Andrew White. And he was in, you know, the area that's now southern Maryland. And he shows up with a band of other colonists. And they're in a group called the Society of Jesus, which is already pinging my radar. He goes to a local Native American chief and talks to him through an interpreter. And he's like, our mission, they had like this whole mission that they were going to, again, civilize the savages, quote unquote. That was kind of what they all wanted to do around this time period. It was all the rage. One of the things he said was to extend civilization and instruction to his ignorant race and show them the way to heaven. Gee, thanks, motherfucker.
Gonna give you some Jesus.
No thanks, I'll pass. But, you know what I mean? Can you imagine? I can't imagine living somewhere for generations, for thousands of years, and then this pasty motherfucker shows up in a dress and says, well, you guys are ignorant, so we're going to show you the right way. I'd just be like, shoop, and just cut his head right off.
Oh, I can imagine. It's happening. It happens now. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like... I don't know, like the audacity. I guess I never really, I don't have balls like that, so it's just kind of like, I don't get it.
All religions have that.
I know, that's why I'm not down with them.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Especially anything having to do with God of Abraham. Fucking Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they're all like that. If you're not one of us, then you don't know the truth. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, then you're I'm gonna save essentially inferior.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then you know, and then I can do anything in service of saving you because I'm saving you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of attitude. I can't fucking stand that.
Yeah.
So it's just, so that's why I was never a fan of religions because of that very mindset.
Well, they're not all like that. That's
I know that.
That's a Middle Eastern
obviously,
thing.
But it's just kind of like all of the Abrahamic religions.
Abrahamic religions, yeah.
Any ones that are hierarchical in any way. I don't have any beef with fucking Hinduism or ones that are like, you know, with all the gods or I don't have any beef with that kind of shit, especially if they're not forcibly trying to convert people. And I know like kind of all religions do that to an extent. I
don't think Buddhism does.
That's what I think.
Most
Buddhism
does,
and Wicca, I guess, are kind of the chillest of all religions. They're just kind of like, everyone's got their own path. It's all good, which is fine. I have if you have chill, I don't really care about religion in that sense. But this whole thing where, well, we know the truth and you don't, and we're gonna force it on you by any means necessary. That's a problem.
To save your soul, to keep you from burning in the eternal hellfire. Yeah.
I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. Just back the fuck off, pretty much. So yeah. So the fact that you would say that to somebody is just that the audacity of it just like makes me laugh.
It's almost something kind of unique to the God of Abraham's religions.
They're so up themselves, as the British say.
Very much.
Which I don't understand that.
Very
it's
much.
Just, it's very funny to me. I mean, it's horrible in practice, obviously, but it's kind of funny to me to think that because I don't really think that way. So
it's real. What do you call it? Fucking ethnocentric. Very
yes.
very ethnocentric. All those the Abrahamic religions are.
The hilarious thing is that what you believe to a large extent has to do with where you were born, how you were raised. Had you been born if you're a, Jesus loving American or whatever, had you been born in another country with another religion, you would believe that just as fervently.
Well, that was the lesson.
You don't think that, but you would.
That was the present.
How would you be different?
That was the lesson of the fucking of the fucking animated movie Red Sun. What would happen if fucking Superman landed in the Soviet Union? He would have been a communist.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good analogy because I don't think a lot of people, I mean, a lot of smart people do, I guess, but it's just kind of like people that are just raised in religions, they don't really think that much about it. I was like, had you been born and raised in another religion, in another country, you would believe that.
Or in another political system.
Just as stridently. Yeah. You would believe that just as stridently.
If you were born and raised in North Korea, you'd believe all kinds of crazy shit. It's the same thing if you were in the fucking Germany in the 30s, you'd have been a Nazi. Okay? There were some people that were against it, but most people weren't. Fucking, it's just...
I think a lot of people were just kind of like going by to get by.
Yeah.
I don't think they really believed it one way or the other.
I think that's the way most of it is.
I think most people are kind of like that.
Most of it's like that, yeah.
You have like a percentage that's like hardcore, like true believers, and then there's like a lot of people being like, I'm just gonna keep my head down. I don't like it, but I don't want to get fucking shot or whatever. Right. I think most people probably fall in that camp.
Yeah.
So you can't think, oh, everybody was Nazis back then, because I don't think that, obviously they weren't. I'm sure a lot of people were not cool with it, but there's not that many people that are gonna put their asses on the line, which a lot of people did. Like to save Jews or try to get them out of the country and stuff like that, which a lot of people did that, but I think that's kind of like a smaller percentage. I think most people
didn't. Yeah.
Most people are just gonna like, man, I'm just gonna live my life and not worry about it. And I think most people fall in that camp. Like not one.
Yeah, they didn't know what was happening in the death camps. Wasn't happening in
They
Germany.
didn't really. Yeah, I think they didn't really find that out until.
Wasn't until later.
Later on, I think they didn't realize the extent of it.
Yeah.
Not excusing it. I'm just saying that I don't think they knew.
Most of them didn't know.
Or they probably wouldn't have believed it.
Well, they would have thought it was
know.
They would have thought it was a conspiracy theory.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like they probably wouldn't have believed it because it's so horrible. They showed. There's no way that could be going on.
Yeah, I read George Patton's book, and he said that when they found that cap at first, they found a cap, and even the American soldiers didn't know what it was.
Well, yeah.
They couldn't understand what it was, and it wasn't one of the big ones. It was one of the smaller ones, and it was in Germany. And it wasn't a death camp. They weren't, but there was a lot of bad shit happening in it. The death camps were in Poland. He said they went down and grabbed people out of the local towns and showed it to him, and he said he was just convinced by their reaction that they didn't know. And I think it was just rumors. And another source that I had read about a long time ago was some American military intelligence guys who were working with German POWs in the United States, because we were keeping the POWs here, the Germans. And after those camps got uncovered, they showed films to the Germans of those death camps, big piles of bodies, and they didn't believe it. They thought it was all just, they called them bone flicks. Oh, they're going to show us some bone flicks. They didn't believe that had actually happened. They thought it was staged by American Hollywood. And I believe that they probably were telling the truth. I don't think that they actually believed it. You heard what I was talking about.
Well, I wouldn't believe it if I saw it. Like I said, it's so horrible that like most normal people can't conceive that kind of shit.
They thought we were tricking them.
Because it's just like, Jesus Christ, who the fuck would do this?
It was a secret
program. To this scale.
Yeah, it was a secret program. They didn't.
I mean, people are
Yeah.
still fucking horrified by it nowadays.
But
and
what's
rightly
weird,
so.
what's weird is that they did even worse and killed even more people just fucking in Einsatzgruppen, or special action groups out in Eastern Europe, fucking as they were going into Russia, and they were just gunning them down and they were throwing them into open pits. They got it on film, stuffing them into fucking churches and setting them on fire. They killed a lot more like that. It wasn't just Jews; that was just Russians in general. And it was hard to believe that they just did that out in the open. But because it was in Russia and they didn't have cell phones back then, word never got back.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know if it happened
Yeah.
the next town over.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't hear about
Yeah.
it necessarily.
Yeah, just the way it was. But that's why I was saying internet and fucking cell phones and fucking and
That's
AI
kind of changed
have
the whole
actually
fucking
changed the game.
dynamic.
You can't get away with anything anymore.
Like I said, you can still bullshit just as much, and I think people are just as stupid. But, you know, you have access to much more information.
You can't do now what you could do in the 40s.
No, you could get away with a lot more
Yeah.
back then, like I said. That's why they didn't catch a lot of fucking killers and shit like that back then.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm of me being a true crime junkie and shit like that, and I'm interested in like a lot of cases from back then that were never solved. And reading about a lot of those, man, some fucked up shit happened back in the fucking early 20th century. So fucked up.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like it was way, way, way more widespread. Might have been even worse than like the whole serial killer explosion like in the 60s and 70s. It's just that you don't hear about it. Or some people got killed and nobody reported it, or nobody found the body, or, you know, it was easier to do back then.
Because people were so low information, they had no concept of danger. They didn't know that any of this was happening.
Yeah.
So everything seemed safe. So
Well, like I said, look at the 60s and 70s. And we're like, we were just hitchhiking. Like, I'm like, are
Yeah.
you crazy?
Yeah.
I remember when that was still kind of, I mean, I grew up in the 70s, so it was still kind of common, but it was still becoming kind of thing where it's like, hey, there's like actual predators out there. You might want to not do that. But in the 60s, like I, knew some people that grew up then. They're just like, man, we used to do it all the time. We didn't think about it. And I was like, Jesus Christ, are you guys insane?
Yeah.
Just getting in a fucking car
Well, it's
with
because
some
most of them
random
got
ass stranger?
it was mostly okay. It was just that.
Yeah, that's
small
the thing.
percentage.
Like most of the time,
Yeah.
it was fine.
Yeah.
You just hear about the times when it wasn't. But like I said, when you're getting in that dude's car, hey, I got some weed.
Yeah.
You don't know who the fuck that dude is.
Yeah.
99% of the time could be fine, but that 1% of the time you're still dead.
Yeah.
So, better be safe than sorry. That's what all I'm saying. And you can't trust nobody. So, I would never fucking hitchhike. It's just like funny to me how fucking cavalier they were about it back then. Everybody did it.
Yeah, nobody does it now. It's just
Nobody. You'd be
it would be-
unless you're super desperate, and even then,
Yeah, it's an
even then,
emergency.
actually, now when I see a hitchhiker, I think that person's probably a serial killer.
Yeah.
The hitchhiker.
Yeah,
is.
culturally, it's not acceptable to hitchhike. To hitchhike, you're a sitting duck.
Like I said, I always kind of think of that person as the predator, depending, especially if it's like some bummy looking dude. I'm like, that dude's probably a serial killer, trying to get a ride, and then he's gonna murder you,
Yeah.
take all your shit.
Although
make
I
drive
say
to the bank
we
and stuff.
say this shit, but I've gotten into situations where we've given people a ride home or ride there. We knew them.
Well,
we
yeah,
say
but
you
we
can't
knew
trust
those
people.
people.
I've been times where fucking I was riding around fucking on my old Ninja back in the 90s and have some teenage girl fucking jump on the back and ride around in the park, but everybody was there. You know what I mean?
When did that happen?
There was something. What's that?
When did that happen?
In the 90s when I was in the army.
Just jump on and like everybody would ride around, and that's crazy.
Yeah, because we were in the 90s fucking when I was at Fort Campbell.
I guess 90s was still kind of, people were still kind of doing that shit.
Yeah, well, fucking, we used to, right outside Fort Campbell, there was this park, I think it was called Lake, what was that park, something or other. And we'd all hang out there, and there's a big circle. And people would go in there to their cars and hang out, fucking, smoke cigarettes, drink beer, whatever. And guys on motorcycles would fucking hang out there. It was all guys in the army. And girls would come hang out, fucking just having fun, big mass of people. I'd have them jump on the back of the bike and ride them around in a fucking circle, fucking, and just drop them back off. And, you want to go up to what you call it? Yeah, and you could, and I didn't really know them, but it was all part of that same kind of crowd.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's just kind of like...
Motorcycle might have different rules because you're not in a cage, you're out in public, maybe, so, I don't know.
Well, I don't know if it's so much that. I just think that, like you said, probably 99% of the time, it's fine. Most people are fine.
Yeah.
They're not going to murder you. But you never know. Like, you never know if you just got unlucky and it's that one person. And I'm just, like, not willing to risk it. The risk is too large.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying. You know. But like I said, most people are fine.
Yeah.
They're perfectly fine. I get, you know, I'm not paranoid because I watch a lot of true crime.
Yeah.
I'm just hyper aware. That's all. And I'm just thinking, well, what is the risk assessment of the situation?
Yeah.
Do I really need to ride home that bad? You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's different because you can just call a fucking Uber. You know, although the Uber driver might rape you as well. You don't know because they have a big problem with that. But at least they're tracked and like you can find out who the fuck they are. You know, if something bad happens. But yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but there's like a huge fucking scandal about that. I don't know if it's a huge scandal, but a lot of those ride-sharing services, like a lot of those drivers are straight up sexual predators.
Yeah.
So, which shouldn't shock anybody, but...
Well, he's not a cab driver.
Yeah.
You should know better. You're basically getting in a dude's car.
Yeah, but like I said, they're on the app. They have to register. They know who they are. So they know their identity. So it's like a cab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
evidently, people are doing that instead of buying a car. I wouldn't do that. Buy a car. Probably spend more money on that app.
I mean, depending on where you live.
Yeah.
Some people might not need one just on a day-to-day basis. It might not be worth it. You know what I mean? Because some people just get Ubers like, oh, I'm going to go out at night. I'm going to drink a lot. And I'll just call an Uber and, you know, go home. That's all. I don't know. Is it even cheaper than cabs? I don't even know.
No. I think it's expensive. If I remember correctly.
I've never taken an Uber
you're not using it much.
Or a cab. Yeah, if you're just doing it every now and then, like when you go out and drink. But yeah, so this first little missionary school kind of was started in a part of, you know, what is now Maryland. And it was started by the Society of Jesus. And it was kind of the first school that they founded, mostly boys. It was Catholic, so, you know, they thought girls didn't really need to be educated. There were a few girls there, but it was mostly boy-centric. You know, the jokes kind of write themselves at this point. And they also had, the Jesuits started a school for humanities in central Maryland that also had some Native American students. Whether they went there voluntarily or were kind of shanghaied into it, I'm not entirely sure. But they did have a couple of students like that even traveled to, you know, countries in Europe and stuff like that. And that was the thing. Any kind of native children that went to any of these kind of schools and did really well, which, you know, many of them did, then that was kind of feeding into the machine too, because then the people at school would be like, well, look at this shining example of a tame savage. Like, you know what I mean? They're just as smart as we are. Like, if we teach them all this stuff, like, you know, they can compete with us. You know what I mean? It's that kind of shit. So a lot of that kind of crap went on too. So there were also some Moravian missionaries in Pennsylvania, and they would do like the religious school thing, but they would also do kind of like vocational training. Usually they would train the boys in, you know, agriculture and stuff of that nature. So, I mean, basically, this just kind of like, I don't know. Like I said, it just seemed like this era, particularly in regards to Native Americans, very paternalistic, kind of... These are just children that need our guiding hand because we're clearly better than they are. So they were kind of teaching them. Like I said, they would teach the boys farming, that kind of stuff, and then they would teach the girls how to be a housewife, essentially. That's kind of what they were doing. Now, in 1819, there was something passed called the Civilization Fund Act.
So this is way back. Okay,
kind of a hilarious name. But like I said, this kind of been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And this started channeling federal money to missionary societies. The Presbyterians, Jesuits, Quakers, like groups like that.
Yeah.
And the money was, they were supposed to erect schools near the Indian reservations. I mean, there's a little one room schoolhouse type things. And they would basically teach agriculture, like I said. They would teach them English. And they would teach them Christianity, of course, because they're trying to convert them.
Yeah.
And this was usually, they would usually set them up in areas that were newly ceded, territories. Like they had just captured these territories or whatever. So it's like, so the federal government would pay these churches to set schools up, like to teach the natives our ways or whatever.
The civilized ways, trying to move you to the next century.
Yeah. There was even one school. This one was in Cornwall, Connecticut. It was established in 1816, and they would even put, like, they had Cherokee kids, Choctaw kids. Mostly, I think it was all boys. But they also had Native Hawaiians, Muslims, and Hindus from Asia that were like living in the area. It wasn't specifically Native American focused, but I think that was kind of what the main focus was. But they would bring in other ones as well. A lot of these early schools, they were also kind of trying to train future missionaries and future translators as well. That's kind of what their aim was. Like I said, just trying to Christianize the savages. So, that's what they called them. Yeah. That's quote unquote. That's what they called them. That's what they thought they were doing. So, the Indian Removal Act, which we talked about in the Trail of Tears episode, and I'm not joking. That's actually what it's called, and that was passed in 1830. So, as we discussed on the Trail of Tears show, this exiled a lot of the southeastern tribes to Indian Territory, which is now mostly Oklahoma, and it's part of Kansas, where a lot of the reservations still are to this day.
Yeah.
And a lot of the treaties that they established at this time kind of promised education as like a payback for, hey, sorry we took your land, we'll kind of educate you. We'll pay to educate you and all this other things.
Jen's kind of skipping over certain things, though. The Indian Removal Act wasn't about just removing all Indians. The deal was that the tribes that were within the zone that was the declared United States had to either accept American citizenship, or if they were going to keep tribal citizenship, they'd have to go out into Indian occupied territory.
Yeah, that's
what they're doing.
Well, I didn't bring it up.
It's not like they're trying to just kick all.
We didn't bring it up because I talked about that on the Trail of Tears. I went pretty deep into that, on the Trail of Tears episode. Because this show isn't really about that. Right. That was just kind of like an outside thing. We already talked about that.
You had to accept American citizenship. So they didn't want to. So
and a lot of them didn't want to.
They didn't want to. Then you had to leave.
So they're like, "Well, sorry, but we want your land because there's good shit on it." And so get out.
Well, it's conquest.
Yeah. So get out.
Yeah, conquest. Go right of conquest.
So you know what I mean. So there was that. Now, here's something that I thought was very funny. So, because at this stage, most of the schools were missionary focused and were run by various denominations, various church groups, Ulysses S. Grant passed something called the Peace Policy, and he decreed that you can only have one denomination per reservation. He wanted to avoid what he called soul poaching. So, like, for example, like the Cheyenne, like the Quakers get you guys. And then, like, the Catholics get this other tribe or whatever. Like, I just thought that was fucked up, but, like, also kind of funny. Like, that they made that delineation. Like, each denomination can only have one tribe. Like, you guys can't fight over the shit, okay? Like, you can't be trying to, like, convert everybody. Everybody has their own group that they're gonna convert. I thought that was very funny. That they had a fucking, like I said, it's fucked up, but it's like, I have a dark sense of humor, so that was funny to me. So, now we come to kind of the model of what became what people talk about when they talk about the Native American or American Indian residential schools. So you have a dude named Richard Henry Pratt. And he was a Civil War veteran. And he actually oversaw 72 Native prisoners who were Cheyenne, Kiowa, Comanche, and Caddo tribes. And this was in Fort Marion in Florida. This was in the 1870s. And for his time, he was actually, this is kind of interesting because I was watching a documentary about this, and they said that for his time, he was actually pretty not like racist in the sense that he was like, oh, well, Indians can be just as good as white people, like, if we teach them to be like white people. So he wasn't racist in the sense that he thought they were inherently inferior, but he kind of thought they were culturally inferior, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, they didn't have technology.
So, yeah, or, you know, or they weren't Christians. That was another thing.
That's part of it
that was
also.
a big thing, too.
Yeah.
So he kind of developed that while he was overseeing these prisoners. I think it was in St. Augustine, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Because there are pictures of him in St. Augustine, like with some of these prisoners. Now, these people that he was overseeing, they had resisted this whole missionary thing, which is why they were in prison in the first place. And so he decided he was going to try and do like cultural immersion on them. So he cut their hair off. He made them wear like Western style uniforms. But he gave them a little bit of leeway. Like he gave them, they were kind of allowed to govern themselves like within the prison. He gave them like paints and like things like, so they could be creative or whatever. So he wasn't super harsh on them, but he wanted to see what would happen if he gave them a Western style look or a Western style framework, but still gave them a little bit of freedom. And because the warriors actually kind of did well in this environment, word started getting around that it's like, oh man, he had like really cracked something. Like, this is the way we're going to take care of what they called back then the Indian problem. We don't have to massacre them all, which is what we were doing up to now. We're actually just going to assimilate them because obviously they can be assimilated. Look how well that these dudes have been doing when given this treatment. So this guy kind of started the school that was the model for all the ones that came after it, which was called Carlisle, which was in Pennsylvania. Now, so this was 1879, and Pratt got federal funding for Carlisle, and it repurposed some abandoned army barracks in Pennsylvania, and this was the country's first off-reservation boarding school. All of the previous ones had been on the reservation or right next to the reservation. You know what I mean? Now, the initial enrollment was 82 students from 14 different tribes, but eventually it would go on to be like thousands of students, and this would become kind of the archetype for about 350 similar schools across the United States. Also some, I think, 150 in Canada as well. This was kind of the model school. Now, his quote, very famous, every time you see something about this topic, you will probably see this quote repeated. Pratt's quote was, "A great general has said that the only good Indian is a dead one. In a sense, I agree that all the Indian there is in the race should be dead. Kill the Indian in him and save the man." So that was kind of, kill the Indian, save the man.
Yeah.
Kind of became the rallying cry.
They're trying to get rid of that culture.
For this type of school. Yeah. So they, like I said, they don't really... So like I said, it's not exactly racism. It kind of is. It's not exactly racism. It's more like cultural...
It's cultural Marxism.
Genocide is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, you can exist, but we want you to be like us.
Yeah.
Which, that's not cool, but okay.
Well, they're trying to make a system.
That's what they're trying to do. So that's what he meant. Yeah. He meant you can live, you just have to be like we are.
Yeah.
Again, not great. So his whole system, the whole Carlisle, the first school that was kind of the model for all the other ones that followed, basically kind of like a military boot camp type situation. They'd wake you up at 5:30 in the morning, whatever, and you'd have to go on marches. They'd do prayers, and they'd give you like gruel for breakfast or whatever. And then for half the day, you would do like school. English, it was English only. You were not allowed to speak your native language at all. If you did, you would be severely punished. People had their mouths washed out with lye soap. One guy, this really old guy that I saw like on a program that had been in one of these, and he said that what they would do is they would, if you spoke your native language, they heard you. Because sometimes they talk to each other, you know what I mean? But if they heard you, they're like, they'd make you put this rubber band thing in your mouth and like pull it and then like keep snapping it like against your lips.
Snapping.
Like shit like that.
Yeah, rubber band.
And he's like, yeah, and it was like, and he's like really painful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'd make you do that like over and over. Like that kind of shit. Or they would just like whip you or beat you with sticks.
Yeah,
or
this is definitely
whatever.
Definitely the Prussian model.
Yeah.
This is what they do to militaries.
Mm. Yeah, it was kind of based around that.
Yeah.
Like I said, in the sense that they're trying to make everyone the same.
Conform and
They're trying to make everyone
be
the
a
same.
unit. Yeah.
Trying to make everyone the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, they would teach them, you know, math, like I said, English. They would teach them U.S. history, but of course nothing about Native Americans. It was always about the Europeans. That's kind of how they rolled. And then the second half of the day would be like industrial labor. You would plow fields or work forges or whatever. If there were girls at the school, some of them had girls, some of them didn't. They would teach you to sew, teach you to cook, you know, housewife type shit. Like that kind of stuff. Now, in the summer, and some schools differed, initially in the summer, the kids were allowed to go home to see their families. However, as time went on, more schools stopped allowing that because they said, oh, well, it's undoing all the work that we're doing throughout the year, so we're not going to let them go home to their family. Now, remember that most of these children were taken from their homes. Basically, their families were told, you have to make them come here, or you guys aren't going to get any food. You're not going to get, like, they were threatened. Like I said, later on, they passed a law where if you didn't comply, you would be imprisoned. Like, if you didn't let your kids go there. So they didn't really have much choice. So the kids didn't want to go. And honestly, one of the guys that had been in one of them, and he said the first day he got there, he said, we got there and they put us in this big concrete room. Like it sounded like a fucking concentration camp is what it sounded like. They put us in this big fucking room and they said, take all your clothes off. And some of the kids didn't speak any English. You know what I mean? So they didn't know what they were talking about. Like, what? And it's like, if the kid didn't know what they were talking about, they would just come over and rip your clothes off you. Like a little kid. You know what I mean? They cut your hair all off and they would put you in these, to them, like really uncomfortable, starchy kind of clothes like they'd wear back then. You know, and like I said, they would horribly punish you if you spoke anything other than English, which, like I said, a lot of the kids did not when they first got there. So, you know, not great. Also, like I said, as time went on, sometimes the kids were allowed to go home in the summers, but later on they were just kind of like, no, we don't want it all undone, so they didn't let them go home in the summers anymore. What they would do was they would essentially pimp them out to local farms, like make them into indentured servants. You have to go work on this farm
work
for
release
nothing.
It's work release.
Like little kids. Go work on this farm for the summer.
Yeah.
And then you have to come back to the school all summer long. So that's what they did.
Yeah, the work release program.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like I said, it was essentially like a prison. Is what it was.
Like a prison and a military school.
Also, they took away their names. They didn't let them have their names.
They gave them an English name.
They gave them an English name.
Yeah.
Catholic schools, they usually made them take saints' names.
Okay, yeah.
In a couple of schools, they just gave them numbers, which super dehumanizing.
I remember what tribe fucking Tori was
Jeez.
from. She was a Macaw.
That's right.
She was a Macaw, yeah.
I knew you would remember.
Yeah.
I can remember.
Got
I
drunk
haven't,
and remember
I haven't seen her
Macaw,
in a while. But yeah,
she was a true-to-life Indian princess. True to life. Yeah. Her dad was like a king.
Yeah. And they were,
Yeah.
like I said, they were upper and Midwest, like Canada. They had whaling rights and all
Yeah,
this
yeah.
other kind of stuff up there.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, they never had a problem with the United States.
Some tribes did not.
Yeah.
It depended on where they were, I guess.
She said they got treated...
If you were on land that they didn't want,
yeah,
then they were probably pretty cool to you, I'd imagine.
Well, I think part of it was that they had a written language, and they were in a place, like you said, that they were in a place that fucking wasn't like the center of trade per se. You know what I mean? If you were on that fucking East Coast, you were doomed, because that you needed to launch shit off the East Coast to get to Europe. You know, so they were West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's just the audacity is like always, and I think I talked about this a little bit on the Trail of Tears show. Yeah. It's just like I can't imagine you and your ancestors having living on land for like 10,000 years, maybe more, and then these dudes show up. Oh, hey, this is ours now. You know what I mean? You're like, no.
Well, I was talking to Tammy about that. If you look at human history, land doesn't really belong to anybody. Everybody's constantly being forced off their lands. The Goths getting forced off out of their lands in Eastern Europe, and being forced into the Roman Empire, and then they were trading their children in exchange for dog meat, selling their children into slavery, trying to get into the Roman Empire. They wouldn't let him in. It's just constant migration. The fucking Mongols fucking spreading throughout deep into Russia and enslaving people. It's just, human history is extremely brutal. Nothing belongs to anybody. And it's all right of conquest. If you can't hold land, they'll take it from you. And the same thing's happening right now. I mean, right now, in the United States, if you look at the ethnic groups, the Mexican Americans in the Southwest could secede from the Union and create the state of Aztlan. They've been talking about it forever. They could do it. And the U.S. government, the U.S. federal government wouldn't do anything about it. They couldn't. It would look bad on television. So you could form, because they can't hold land anymore.
Well, I think see it now. The main problem, I think, with a lot of the Native American stuff was that they didn't really have so much of a concept, because this kind of came later where, the government was like, we'll allot you little portions of land, and they're like, that's not really how it works. That's not how they'd been.
No, they just walked around.
Their tribe was like,
semi-mobile.
Our tribe has this whole area. This is our area. And like our territory. They didn't really think, oh, I own this bit and he owns that
just
bit.
An area.
Like that was a weird concept to them.
And they usually moved around.
Yeah,
the United States, depending on what time of year it was. There's as you would. They were mostly mobile,
and most of the tribes did that. Like they didn't really have much of a concept of
like land ownership.
I own this, or that person owns that, and I can't go on that. Like that seemed a weird.
They weren't
a foreign concept.
They weren't agricultural. They were hunter gatherer.
Yeah.
So they weren't usually farming. So they had to move into new lands at different seasons to eat.
Yeah, and they just did that like through a cycle. Like,
that was a good lifestyle.
They had done that for thousands and thousands of years.
It's a real good lifestyle. That's what humans really kind of evolved to live, that semi-mobile lifestyle. The problem is that when the West moved into it, it was on the verge of an industrial revolution, and everything was heavily agricultural based. The Western civilization, if you gave them a fucking certain place of land, they could feed a lot more people than the Indians could. Because the Indians had to move to forage.
Yeah, but they had smaller...
They had a smaller population.
Yeah, it worked for them.
The white populations that were spilling over into Europe, they were overflowing into the fucking United States. They had to eat. So they needed farmland to feed everybody. Because it was an agricultural, and then it went industrial. And then after that, now you got machines. So then the population boom was amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, you could never no way of stopping that juggernaut.
There's no way to stop it. It'd be like you can't stop technology and progress. So you gotta fucking look at the shit more. The Indians could not feed the white man. The white man needed a bunch of land to fucking have fucking shit and resources, and we had a huge population boom. The Indians were not numerous because they didn't have agriculture or industry. It was just small tribal nations, and they're going to be limited to what could grow naturally and what they could hunt, which means you're going to have a small population. So their weakness wasn't that they were bad or anything like that. They were quite fucking fierce. They were real good fighters, and they mostly won battles that they were in against the United States Army. The problem was that there wasn't enough of them.
Yeah.
There was a small population.
And like I said, some of them got wiped out by diseases that they weren't immune to.
Okay. Right.
Like, so there was a lot of other factors
There's
there.
a bunch of factors, right?
But I'm just saying that it's like, I understand though, it's like how fucking infuriating that would be to like just be on this fucking continent for like thousands and thousands of years, and suddenly these douchebags like show up and just take all your shit. You know what I mean? So I can see why they're mad. I see. You know what I mean? I didn't get too much of that. Like my grandfather, John Hunter, was Blackfeet, but I didn't hear too much about this kind of stuff. But yeah. So yeah, they're essentially doing like a military school type of thing. But like I said, it's against their will. They've been taken from their family, and some of these kids literally never saw their families again. Or by the time they got back there, like their families were dead, or like they didn't even remember a lot of the stuff because, you know, a lot of them were taken away. Like, so, you know, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. I know they didn't really care about kids back then. They're just kind of like, you know, whatever. We're just going to like fucking take them and mold them the way we want to. That was essentially what they were trying to do. So, I don't know. Like I said, just a bad situation. So by 1902, you had the Bureau of Indian Affairs, henceforth BIA, and they had replicated this model like all across the nation. So you ended up having about 350 of these types of schools. Like they did have some just day schools, you know, where people like a regular school where we would just go then come home at night. But they weren't quite as enthusiastic about those because, like I said, for the same reason that a lot of them didn't like the boarding school kids going home in the summer, because like, look, we're doing all this work to quote unquote civilize them. It's like we don't want them going home at night and then having their family like undo all the work. You know what I mean? So they weren't quite as popular. They did have some of those, but like I said, the boarding schools were kind of the main thing. So, like, so they weren't all church operated, but a lot of them were. Now in 1891, they passed a law that made attendance at these compulsory. So you had to go to one of these fucking schools. If you were if you lived on a reservation, and there were punishments if you did not. So they would legit take your kids. Like I said, just like CPS would come in. Although I'm not gonna shit on CPS because most of the time, if they come and take your kids, they got a reason. But it's just like they didn't have a reason. It was just like the law. Hey, government says that your kids have to go to this school, whether you like it or not, and they would just come and take them. So they just took them. Some families did try to hide their kids and shit like that, but you know, most of them did have to go. And most of the people that I saw interviewed, they basically said that they're like, well, my parents told me later that it's like they didn't really have a choice, and it's like, you know, they were gonna be put in prison if they didn't earn. So they understood, because I think they were kind of mad at first, because like, why did my parents like let me go? Like they didn't see their parents for years and years, which is fucking crazy. And they're like, but I understand like why they did it. So a lot of them were like pretty forgiving about it, but I mean, they just didn't like the situation that they'd been put in. What?
Nothing.
No. Another thing that happened too, and I saw this guy talking about it on a thing, was that, I mean, obviously any kind of situation like this, especially if the Catholic Church is involved, is going to have a lot of abuse, particularly sexual abuse, and there was a lot of that going on. And another thing they would do too, and this guy in particular was like, I don't know, he wouldn't really say, and I understand, he wouldn't really say if he had experienced it personally or if he just knew or if he just saw it happening. But he said, I wrote to my mom about all the stuff that was going on. And he's like, when I saw her many years later, she didn't really seem to say anything about it. And he's like, we were talking about it one of these days, and she's like, oh, I didn't hear about any of that. I got letters from you, but they were all like blacked out. They had redacted his fucking letters.
Complaining about the place, probably.
Like, they opened everybody's letters before they went out and, like, blacked out, like, anything that was unacceptable or said about, like, bad shit that was going on there.
Yeah.
So the families wouldn't know what was going on. So she felt really bad because she's like, I didn't know, like, what was going on because I didn't realize they took all that shit out. So, that was another thing they would do. And, yeah. I'm going to say that particularly the Catholics and the Protestants made a lot of money out of this. They got stipends per pupil because they all had federal contracts, right? So, cha-ching, trying to get as many kids as possible in there. Like I said, even they got to kidnap them, which they did in some sense. So yeah, okay. I don't probably need to say about that. But yeah, so basically, this is kind of all the same kind of shit that I'm talking about. Let me see. Oh, I found this quote from this woman, Anna Moore. And she was basically like, you would be woken up at 5 a.m. and the girls particularly would be put in you would just have to scrub the floors like all day. And if the floor wasn't done by the time like everybody came in for breakfast, then you got whipped, and then you had to like finish it later, and it's like I said, it was like super, super abusive. Yeah. So I'm trying to like find some stuff that I haven't like talked about yet. Oh yeah, and I've heard of these before, and maybe somebody can look this up. But there's something called McGuffey Readers. That was something that was part of the curriculum there. And I guess that was kind of more like a Christian-based thing, because that was another aspect of these kind of schools where they would teach these kids that their native beliefs were dumb and were just like superstition and were
from
not
the
true.
devil. Yeah.
And
you think they would say it from the devil.
And yeah, and a couple of the people that I saw that had been there said, I was like 7 and these people were telling me, that you believe you're going to hell and your parents are going to hell, and they're like telling that to a little kid, that's kind of fucked up. It's like it kind of, you believe it.
Yeah.
When you have adults like telling you that kind of stuff.
Those adults probably believed it. Fucking they're from a church.
Yeah, but that's
it was just funny that they would give money to those people. But it's probably their fucking brother-in-law that gave them the contract. The elected fucking.
To be honest, I still have no idea why churches are tax exempt. And I do not understand.
It's part of the racket.
It is such a racket. They should be taxed out the fucking wazoo.
Most of the shit
much money.
Most of the shit in the system today in the U.S. has evolved. It was started off as maybe okay, became a racket. Now it's fucking a racket. A lot of it's a racket.
Well, that's for real a racket.
Yeah, the whole economy is a racket.
The fact that fucking Scientology got tax exempt status proves that
that's
that
a fucking
whole
racket.
Fucking shit's a racket.
It's a racket.
I want tax exempt status. I don't pay that many taxes anyway because I don't make that much money. But you know what I mean? Still, it's the principle of the thing. Also, and this is also kind of darkly hilarious, is that some of these schools had almost like a cruel joke, I feel. They would have something called Indian Day. And they'd have these programs, and they'd have some of the kids come out dressed in their native costumes to, like, perform for the whiteys.
Yeah.
But they weren't allowed to do that normally. They were just, I'm like... That almost seems like they're rubbing it in their face.
I don't think that's what it is. You know what I think it is?
That's what it would seem like to me if I was in that situation.
That indicates to me that there's a certain level of fucking that the adults know this is shit, this kind of bullshit what they're doing. That's what I think.
I don't think most people are that self-aware, to be honest with you.
It's kind of
you know what I mean? Especially back in this era.
Today you can honor your fucking shit. Go ahead and be an Indian. It's Indian
Day.
Day.
Do your weird shit.
Do your weird shit. Yeah.
Do your cosplay.
Yeah. That's probably what it was.
Fine. Yeah, maybe it was like that.
Probably what it is.
But like I said, it's almost like they're making fun of them, or like rubbing it in their face that they can't be like that.
I don't know.
That's what
it's hard. It's hard to understand what it was. This was a long time ago, so it's hard to understand what their take was.
Tom Baker says the Al Jolson school. Yeah, that was like the vibe I got.
Yeah, like the Al Jolson.
It's like that.
Yeah.
Like that's how I would take it if I was in that situation. That is absolutely how I would take it. Sounds like, oh, you're making fun of me. Like, this is just some kind of costume for you, or that's just funny or exotic.
They're being
or
meta.
some kind of shit.
Maybe they're being meta.
I don't think they have the self-awareness to be meta.
But it might be, you're no longer in India, but
to be meta, you have to have some level of self-awareness. Actually, a couple levels of self-awareness. And I really don't think they have that.
Probably what it is that this is just a mindless machine that they set up to make money. And people are working in it.
Yeah, I don't think people
I wouldn't
really
read too much
thought
in it.
of it.
I don't think they thought about it.
That's what I'm saying. No, I didn't say they thought of that. I'm saying that if I was in that situation, that's how I would perceive it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's probably how a lot of them perceived it also.
Yeah, the people running the school probably have...
Well, no, I don't give a shit about them.
They probably have no
idea.
idea.
They're the villains in this situation.
They probably have no idea.
I'm just saying that that's how it was perceived.
Yeah, they're just... Well, you can go back and... Well, just imagine the way a lot of churches are now. I can imagine what it would be like in the 1800s. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they used to fucking burn people at the stake.
Not in the 1800s, but they would fucking...
Well...
No, I don't think they burned anybody at the stake in the 1800s I can think of.
Yeah, it kind of did.
They burned at the stake?
I think that was still going on in Germany and shit.
Okay,
somebody look that up. Not here. That we know.
It's probably just a thing where they're convinced that, look, you got to be a Christian, and this is America now. And fucking this Indian thing, you guys are full of shit. This is all just,
It's cute and all.
Yeah, that's not serious. It's not a serious thing.
That's what I mean. That's exactly how I would take it. Which is very offensive.
Yeah, they're thinking of it from the point of view like y'all need to outgrow this, and we're changing you from your parents. We're changing you from your parents.
It's a phase
because your parents are fucking backwards. Yeah, that's what they're thinking.
I know that's what they're thinking, and that's why I would be offended, and that's why they were.
From my point
offended.
of view, both those groups were probably backwards as fuck, probably.
Well, like I said, hard to say because it was a long time ago. But I'm just saying, had I been in this situation,
I don't know all these tribal practices and beliefs. Some of the shit might have been abhorrent. We don't know. I don't know all the details of what they believed in. I know that they tortured people to death. Fucking not these particular people we're talking about now, but fucking a lot of shit's been documented during battles and shit that they tortured people to death afterwards and killed prisoners and fucking they raped people and shit. But they were war bands. You know what I mean? These they were angels.
They were
badasses.
No one's pure good or pure evil. Like that's
so,
that's obviously not true.
It's just in this fucking.
I'm just saying in this particular
case, they gave federal funds to churches and told them to look, man, fucking civilize these Indians and fucking this is back in the 1800s. That's a recipe for fucking disaster. I'd have left them alone. I'd have left them alone because eventually the internet would have got them. World War II would have happened.
I mean, like I said, I'm just saying that in this context...
World War II changed everything.
Had all of this been going on,
Yeah.
Had I been sent to some school, stripped of my identity, they gave me some other fucking name.
Yeah.
They didn't let me talk the way I wanted to talk or do what I wanted to do or anything like that. And then they're like, oh, well, one day a year you can put on your little costume and do your little thing. And it's like, I would be very offended.
Yeah.
I would think that was very condescending.
The standard procedure when you conquer and take over a new land is you either drive the other inhabitants out or you kill them. And usually it's like a mixture of the two. So they probably were like, well, we're going to change you and turn you into Americans. That probably was a forward-thinking concept.
For the time, it was. As sad as that sounds. But
how
it's
and how are they going to... Did they have what it took to handle that? Probably not. These people are not fucking any kind of educated specialists. They're church people. You know what I mean?
And
they're 1800s. they're 1800s church people. So that's a recipe for fucking
I'm quoting
disaster.
Blazing Saddles. Don't get mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moron. But yeah. So like I said, not surprisingly, so these schools were not all run by the Catholics. I think about a third of them were, if I'm remembering correctly. But even the ones that weren't, it was just physical abuse all day long, sexual abuse, very, very common. And the thing about it, most of the schools had a problem with this. Anytime you put people with this kind of mindset in charge of people that are, kids that are vulnerable, from a marginalized population, obviously you're going to have issues because people are going to take advantage. And as we said earlier, because these schools were so overcrowded, because there was shitty sanitation, and because they fed them so poorly and didn't really give them decent medical care of any kind, disease was rampant. Tuberculosis, very, very common. Measles, flu, just anything that came into was just kind of go through the whole fucking school. And some schools had like 50% mortality. Like, kids would fucking die. And
Damn.
most of the time, every now and then, some of them would be magnanimous enough to like send the kid back to their family, but most of the time they just threw them in the fucking the grounds of the school.
You mean sent the body back to the family?
Sent the body back to the family. Yeah. Sometimes, actually, one woman that was on there said she was looking for her sister who had died in one of these. They think of tuberculosis, but they're not sure because there aren't really any good records. And she went to the place where the girl was sent, and she's like, there's all these graves that just say unknown on them. So it's like, so I assume she's in one of these? I don't know. Like, they don't know where she is. Which is that's fucked up. That was her sister. You know what I mean? Like, when she was little. I think she was 9. Like, when she fucking died.
Yeah, it's going to be bad food, bad water, disease, fucking improper ventilation, no central air conditioning.
Yeah, because they don't give, they don't give a crap, really.
Well, the technology of the time, too. People
everybody lived in kind of shitty
filthy
situations.
They shat in pots and put it underneath the bed.
They did.
You know what I mean? They didn't have running water.
You know, you want to hear something funny? As horrifying as I know this is kind of out of left field, but I'm just saying this always kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
You know the Lizzie Borden case?
Yeah.
Whether she did it or not, I don't really know.
Yeah, I'm
but
pretty sure she did it.
Probably.
Yeah.
But the thing about it, the thing that always struck me about it, because I read a couple books about it, was that the day that it happened, I think, all the family had been sick, like they got food poisoning or something like that, and all of it like vomited in the chamber pots and just put them under the bed.
Yeah, probably had a turd in there too. There's probably a turd in there too.
I can't fucking imagine living in that. Seriously, man, I just get like a tiny smudge of food or something on my finger and I freak the fuck out. I can't imagine like, and I don't have OCD or nothing. It's just kind of like gross. I don't understand how people could fucking live like. How can you sleep knowing that there's a fucking bowl of vomit? Like, I don't understand. I guess it was very normalized, but I don't know. That always fucking stuck with me. I was like, God, the smell. I wouldn't be able to fucking sleep from the smell. I don't understand how people could fucking deal with it. I guess they were used to it, because probably everything stunk back then. It was probably just a wall of stink. That's how I think of the past. It's just kind of like everything stuck. So I don't know. So I think that because of all this death, it took a long time, but I think Canada got into it first because they had them as well. Not as many as we had, but, same kind of thing. And they started looking into, like, doing investigations about it and, like, doing excavations, like, around some of the old school sites and whatever, and, like, finding bodies and stuff. And figuring out that, hey, like, I think this was only in 2021, they did an excavation of Carlisle, like I said, the first one in Pennsylvania that I talked about that was kind of like the model for all the other schools. And they found 215, I think, kids' bodies in the thing. And most of them were documented, but not to any great extent. It would just say something like runaway or fever or something like that. But they found like over 200 bodies like on the grounds of that school. So they're not entirely sure because they haven't done excavations everywhere. They're kind of working on that slowly. But over as many schools as there were and kind of average how many deaths, maybe between 6,000 to 40,000 kids maybe died at these schools. the rate of death at these was much, much higher than at, white people orphanages or whatever. It was like significantly higher. Like the conditions were, I'm not saying they were great at the orphanages and shit, but they were worse at these because they didn't really seem to give much of a crap.
Lower budget, probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, less
so,
of a budget.
Yeah, and like I said, I kind of feel like the whole attitude was, well, we're going to civilize it, but if we can't, if they die, it's okay.
Well, that was another part of the fucking idea was to reduce the number of them. And, you're not talking about the modern era.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, oh, win-win.
Like, yeah.
One less.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
I think it was just kind of that. So, I don't think they cared as much. I don't really think they cared if it was white kids either, but I think they cared less when it wasn't white kids, is all I'm saying.
They would have considered these kids indigent. Like orphans.
Yeah. But like I said, even though, they had families.
But they didn't consider
they
their
had been taken from
But they
them.
didn't consider their families to be families.
Which is weird.
They'd be because
they
like,
didn't.
Because when they were seeing them on a reservation, they're kind of like seeing it as like a fucking super low end fucking housing project. You know what I mean? Like they can't raise kids.
Yeah, like almost like it didn't count.
Yeah, no, it didn't count. They can't.
Like it didn't count.
Well, it didn't have the goal in mind that the people seeing it had. They're like, they're not making productive American citizens here. Which is, that's how they're going to see it. It's like, maybe we'll just get them off there. We can save some of them if they die. Then, fuck it,
There's more.
Yeah. They just, and it was, they do this shit without a lot of thought, but like a lot of it has to do with making money. Money is always the deal.
I always kind of feel like that's another kind of, and I don't think it's uniquely American, but that kind of particular American mindset of like, well, you have to be like productive. You have to be like making money 24/7 or you don't matter.
Yeah.
That's very, very harmful. I think that like causes a lot
Well,
of
look, man,
problems.
it goes back to a fucking phrase that they repeated a lot in their writings in the 1800s is that they all had an eye towards progress. Everything was about progress. And progress was the...
Yeah, but what does progress look like? Progress looks like different things to different people.
Progress looks like the conquest of the United States, fucking American industries everywhere, large populations, just shit like that. Later on, it became electricity and cars. Progress then, then eventually became fucking nuclear power, And then progress became the Jetsons and flying cars. That didn't happen, But it's always that. America always had a moonshot, fucking mentality to it. That
in
we're
some
gonna
ways, it's good to keep moving forward. I'm always kind of wary because I remember doing all this stupid L. Ron Hubbard classes, like in the Scientology shithole that I worked at in Clearwater. And I read unwillingly like a lot of his works, and one, that dude was a fucking crazy person, and two, he seemed to have really completely absorbed the weird American thing of like infinite growth. Like you can just keep things going forever.
It's very American.
That is not.
It is very American.
Sustainable. It's just not in real life.
It's very American.
And the fact that
it's the heart of an American corporation.
Right, and that's what I mean.
Infinite growth.
That is really fucked up because you can't have that.
They want it to be that
impossible.
way because they're trying to fucking sell stock. Goddammit,
it's impossible.
And fucking
I know why.
And then there's the
But he bought right into that.
Yeah, but that's been going on since the 1800s.
I know, but he bought right into that whole shit. And like I'm reading this, and I'm just like, this dude's fucking insane. This shit. It's like I know it's been going on forever, but it's just kind of since the Industrial Revolution.
The American identity is, of course, a new country and a new world expanding rapidly, expanded, fucking extremely quick growth. They're naturally gonna have that mentality just kind of ingrained into the into the mentality of America, which is rapid growth and progress. And if you look at fucking American thinking, and me being partially raised in other countries like Brazil, I can see the differences between them. Americans Americans do have a very progressive mindset. Things that are new are good. Things that are old are bad, or stupid, or out of date. And that includes people. The elderly here are kind of like, all those boomers, but there's something to be said for that because Americans understand obsolescence. And people can become obsolete. Now, in a way, that type of fucking mentality that we have, which is very corporate, and it's been that way. The corporations are that way because we formed those corporations, and Americans were like that. An American corporation is a reflection of the American
uniquely
society.
American, but it is a very American mindset.
Oh, yeah, no. The
but it's
corporations
really,
that
man,
kick
it
ass
fucks people up psychologically.
were built
seriously.
on an American psychology. Those are the corporations that we're dealing with. They've just magnified it.
I'm not
There's-
okay. So I'm what?
They're very competent. Are they correct? No. Do they do stupid shit? Fucking right. They're fucking stupid. They do all kinds of stupid shit. But it could get worse. The Russian mentality was even less human. Okay, they would kill off millions of their own people in the name of progress, just so they could beat us to the moon or shit like that. They were like that.
Like
They'd starve out their own populations.
And justifies the means.
Yeah, ends justify the means. People
that
are
always
just,
causes evil.
right. So,
look,
in many ways, Americans and Russians are real similar.
Yeah,
Very, very similar.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know Russian.
But
a lot of Russian history, the mentality, and the shit that they did. And Americans are every Russian I ever met, fucking hit it off with them great. Fucking cool, fucking goth dude. Fucking I was an old Russian fucking soldier after the fucking fall of the Soviet Union. Fucking Vadim was fucking one of the hottest goth guys in the fucking clubs in Boston. Long black hair and shit. He was Russian, a Russian army guy. We got along real well. Fucking me and him, fucking chasing the girls together. There's Russians and Americans are extremely similar in their mindset. They're even more brutal.
yeah,
But there's something about them that is just like kind of like very cool in some ways. They're self-sacrifice machines. They don't care. They're very patriotic. They're hard to beat.
well, like
They're
I said,
tough.
in
They're
a
very
lot
tough.
of ways. I'm an advocate of progress on some fronts. However, I'm also a humanist,
Yeah.
and if that progress comes at the expense of human rights, then no, I'm not.
I agree.
Not into that.
I agree.
I'm not into that.
The Russians didn't see it that way. They saw that as long as people are surviving and growing, then my mission is complete. I died for Mother Russia so we could get to the moon before the Americans. That they're very, very patriotic.
Yeah,
a lot of self-sacrifice.
I'm not singing that song.
A lot of self-sacrifice. Yeah, that's why I'm saying they're hard to beat. They're like crash test dummies.
I get that.
They'll
But like I
fight to the
said,
very end.
I refuse
Yeah.
to sacrifice even my well-being or anything like that for a greater good that doesn't give a shit about me. So yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
playing that game.
Well, I know Russian.
I'm not
Russian
playing
girl, that Russian woman I talked to, she's like that too.
I'm not playing that game.
Yeah. So not all Russians are like that, but Russian dudes tend to be that way.
Well,
They're
dudes
ver-
in general are
they're-
kind of more like that.
Yeah, they're very much men of honor. We're going to go down.
Women are a lot
Yep.
more generally pragmatic.
Yeah.
We're just gonna watch out for our ass and like our kids or the people that we care about. I don't do anything for any greater ideal or any country or any religion or anything like that. That's all bullshit. I don't truck with that. But
It's just differences in the brain, I think, and fucking hormones.
I don't do that whole honor culture thing.
Yeah, men
I have
tend
to do
men
this
tend to
'cause-
be more systematic and more about systems.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And women aren't like that.
I don't
But
like
you
that.
know, it's just the way guys are.
I'm a lot more chill. I'm not
Yeah.
like I said. I'm not. That's why shit like this. When I was reading about this and watching documentaries about it, it was making me mad because this shit always makes me mad.
Well, yeah,
But it's
this is some misguided shit.
Because-
I wouldn't have done it that way.
Well, like I said, and especially makes me mad, and I know this is not just a religious issue, but religions and these types of systems have the same mindset. And the mindset is, like I said, an authoritarian, a hierarchical mindset. And I think that causes a lot of fucking problems. I don't think like that, so to me it's kind of alien that the fact that you think that, well, I'm better than this person, they're below me in station, so therefore I can do this, that, and the other, and it's okay. I don't. Yeah, that doesn't fly with me. Sorry.
Very 1800s.
Yeah, and
very 1800s.
And so I know that a lot of people were like that. Not everybody was, because there were some people speaking out against this even back then. There's always voices of reason, but
it's just whether or not they had the power to do anything.
Right, they didn't at this stage,
yeah,
sadly.
No.
And honestly, a lot of their writings have not survived.
Yeah.
But because it wouldn't. Like I said, you didn't really have the power. You weren't really in the main zeitgeist, especially back then.
Yeah.
When getting anything published was hard and all this other kind of shit. So shit didn't survive.
Yeah, there's no social media.
So
and look, the average American didn't see any of this. They didn't even know any of this was going on. All right, and then the machine that did this, that paid for it, probably was not even really aware of it.
And I don't.
They're up in Washington D.C. worried about their own asses.
Yeah, and I think honestly, and this isn't an indictment. I'm just saying that even if people had known about it, I don't think most people would have cared. I kind of feel like
as brutal as life was.
I mean, it's and it's the same nowadays. It's like you hear stuff about other people. There's only so much you can do, and there's only so much you can care about before you start getting overwhelmed. You know what I mean? I get it. You're just one person. Like, you don't have the power to do anything. I don't have billions of dollars that I could use to like help humanity or anything like that. I'm just like some schlub. So I get it. But I feel like most people are just kind of like, as long as they're okay. I don't really think they care that much about other people. The more you care about other people, sadly, the sadder your life is going to be, because there's a lot of people you want to help them and you can't, because you don't have any power to, and that's really sad.
In this era, nobody would have known.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And what I'm saying is that even if they had known, I don't think most of them would have cared that much, especially back in this era when these kids would have just been seen as, oh well, they're just savages, so it's okay. They need to be taught about Jesus.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how most people would have seen it.
Yeah.
Which is what's fucked up to me. That's, like I said, that kind of shit. Like,
well, they're dumb,
Well, they were kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Not everybody was dumb back then. It's just that
there weren't enough smart people.
There weren't enough smart people.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
There were.
And the smart people that they had were working on
I've read some shit. There's a great book. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, it's called Free Thinkers. And it wasn't specifically about this, but it was kind of about atheism, or it was about people that were questioning religion. And she had compiled, what the fuck was the author? Susan Jacoby, that was her name. I have the book somewhere. She had compiled atheist writings from thousands of years ago, like all through the millennia.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that there were people back then whose writings survived that knew that it was all bullshit.
Well, yeah,
knew that shit was bullshit, but like you didn't. It wasn't popular. It wasn't. But she found it. You know what I mean?
You can read ancient Roman writings about we have all these gods that we worship, and the poor people think that they're real.
Yeah.
But me being an educated person know that they're not real. They're based on ancient kings and things and leaders that we had a long time ago. Not true. They're just pulled out the ass. But that's what he thought. And he says, most Romans most Romans of my status know that they're things for the poor people.
Yeah.
And we respect them as just a means of tradition. They didn't think any of that shit was rich Romans didn't believe any of those gods actually existed.
Didn't think any of that was real.
But they used them as a way of making themselves look good in front of the poor. Because the poor people believed
controlling people. Well, which is still a cudgel.
Well, they helped to give the ruling class legitimacy. And power. Because you used to tell these old people, look, I don't believe in this all those shit. They'd throw you out of power. They'd kill you.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a choice.
Well, that's one of the things that, like I said, not being a fan of religion myself, that's one of the things that I think is really dangerous about religion is that if it can make you believe... who was it that said... it might have been Voltaire that said if I can make you believe absurdities, I can make you commit atrocities.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was Voltaire that said that.
Yeah, well, it's not just religions that'll do that. Political ideologies will do that.
Well, that's what he was
Just
referring to anything like that.
Anything like that, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you believe anything like that, then I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
make you do anything I
Yeah.
want, is essentially what
Another
he
thing
was
is like people will...
Please correct me if it wasn't Voltaire,
if,
I think it was.
And if people... Okay, for instance, like they say that certain men in charge of biotechnological agencies will do all these fucking... perform these fucking cruel experiments on fucking beagles and shit. But they don't really want to know any of the stuff that they're getting with the beagles and the fucking flesh-eating flies. They just want to make sure... They want to know if they're technical people that are doing these things for them, if they're obedient, and will they do atrocities when I ask them to. Weird shit.
Well, that's
Probably
some
true.
power to have over somebody.
Yeah, and then
To
once,
know that you can just tell people
you
to
can
do
do
whatever
yeah.
you want.
And then the ones that fucking bolo out or leave, yeah, good. Now, these ones that stayed, they're now all bound together in guilt. I can get them. I can order
Those are
them to
the
do something.
suckers.
I can actually get them to do something even worse
Yeah.
because they're afraid of the
That's what they're
exposure of the
doing.
shit that they did
They're
before.
filtering out
They're filtering out
the people with, like, a conscience.
right,
Is what they're doing.
or they're filtering
Or
in
people who are not obedient.
or they're
to a
filtering in people that are guilty, and they'll
Yeah.
do it to hide what they did before. Okay, here's a good example. African warlords would fucking recruit children after they'd raid a fucking town, and they'd get those
Yeah.
children to kill their own parents.
We talked about that. We did a show
Yeah.
about General Butt Naked
General Butt Naked.
a long time ago.
Yeah,
And
the
we
ones
kinda
that
talked a
kill
little bit
their
about
own
that
fucking
back then.
children, the ones that kill their own parents, they'll go, okay, look, you killed your own parents because you were weak with fear. You shouldn't have killed your own parents. You were just afraid of death.
Yeah.
Because I would have killed you had you not. You should feel ashamed for yourself.
Yeah.
And then
They
that
will
first time all
fuck
this shame
you
is
over.
the only way to come out of that shame is to make you a brave warrior, and I'm going to show you how to do it.
Yeah.
All right, and that's how you get.
It's like the worst
Right.
possible iteration
Yeah.
of like negging.
Yeah.
You know how manosphere type dudes do like the negging thing, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna say shitty stuff to this girl
Yeah.
because that'll make her feel bad about herself, and then she'll want to up her game to please me. That's kind of what they're doing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it's the same thing. It's the same
Right.
psychological thing.
And people have been doing it in corporations and shit for fucking eons, for a long time. Saddam Hussein, he got into power by pointing out a bunch of people he said were traitors. And fucking once they stood up, they all started clapping, the people who weren't traitors. And he goes, yeah, you guys feel better, right? Because you weren't the traitors? Good. And to prove your allegiance, tomorrow you will be the fucking firing squad killing these people here. Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Then from there on out, they were guilty of murder. They had to back Saddam.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of
They
mind
know
games you do.
Like I said, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's been going on for thousands of
Yeah,
years. People figured it out. Horrible people figured it out on their own. You know what I mean? And they just keep doing the same shit over and over. And people keep falling for it over and over, sadly. But, you know, like I said, people are no different. So the same tricks work on them as worked back then. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing about the whole negging thing. It's like, I don't know. To me, that kind of shit is like really transparent, but it, you know, maybe it's not to some people. But to me, it's just like as soon as somebody starts saying this, that, and the other thing, I'm just like I said, I know we've talked about cults because I'm fascinated by cults. Honestly, we've talked about a lot of cults on this show, and I'm just kind of like, I'm always kind of fascinated. It's like, could I be drawn into a cult? Like, I'm always kind of interested, but I don't think so. I'm not going to say outright that I couldn't, right? Because that's, you know, that's arrogant. I wouldn't say that. But, man, it would take a lot. It would take a lot. I think the thing that makes me most cult averse is I'm not a joiner. I think that's what it is. I think cults target not only vulnerable people, because I'm not saying I don't have fucking problems, just like everyone does, you know what I mean? And I could be come at in ways where I was vulnerable. Everybody's vulnerable in some areas. So if I was come at in some sort of ways, yeah, I might fall for some kind of shit. But the second somebody said, hey, come to this group or come to this, I'm like, nope. Not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I do not want to join. I'm an introverted motherfucker. So I kind of think that's probably why. I think that's the only reason why I wouldn't be sucked into a cult. I'm not saying that somebody couldn't come at me with something like, targeting my vulnerabilities.
They would target you for
No, I know.
friendly.
Right,
Do you want another one of those?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not saying that, but I said I think where they would downfall is a cult by its nature is, I don't want to say social, but there's like a lot of people in it. And the second somebody says, hey, come and do this thing with all these other people, I'm immediately going to say no. Nope. I have no interest. No interest. I don't really care about being a part of anything. I don't really care about being connected to anything. I don't have that gene. So yeah. So I think that's probably the only reason. I'm not saying people couldn't get to me in other ways. They could. But I think that's probably why I could never get into a cult situation, because I don't want to be in a group. I don't have that group synergy and connection with other people. I don't have that. I'm like, ew, get away from me. You know what I mean? I think that's probably the only good thing about having that fucking mentality. It's not like being around other people. I do like other people. I do. I like my friends. I like shit like that. I like interacting in certain contexts. But if somebody says, hey, come join this group doing this and that, I'm just like, nah. I don't want to do that. So, yeah. So
a lot of people are missing. I guess this wasn't it must be the holidays, huh?
Well, I mean, tomorrow's a holiday, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
I know a lot of y'all are not from the United States, but
maybe this wasn't a popular fucking.
Well, it won the poll.
It won the poll
by a pretty large margin.
Okay.
So, I'm not questioning, and there was a lot of votes. So.
Okay.
So I'm not. I'll do whatever you guys vote for, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
we've covered a lot of it already.
I mean, honestly, I write down, if I remember, everything you guys suggest, put it in the list, and then I have this huge list. You guys don't even know. I have stuff from like years and years ago. And then I try to mix it up. I'm just kind of like, well, there's a couple serial killers, there's maybe a paranormal-ish or a UFO type of topic or something that's not true crime, but I try to mix it up a little bit and just see what happens. I'm always surprised though.
Well, this is what won, so there you go.
It's never the one that I think is gonna win.
Right.
I thought this might win, I guess, just because it's the day before Thanksgiving, and I think people would think it was kind of ironic, I suppose.
Yeah, or sacrilegious to the fucking Thanksgiving baby. Maybe they got mad.
Which kind of what I was going for, honestly. That's why I added it to the poll, because I was like, that'd be kind of funny, like, to do that topic on Thanksgiving, because everyone would get, like, not everyone, but, like, a certain type of person might get, like, offended by it. Yeah. I don't know why you'd get offended by it. It happened. You know what I mean? I don't understand this whole thing. It's like, we can't talk about these certain topics because, people might get mad about it, or it's, people might not be patriotic now or some shit like that. It's fucking dumb, man. You should just find out about... Every country has done fucked up shit. Every country has done fucked up shit.
They must be taking it personal.
It is not doing anyone any service to not say what the country has been fucked up. Everybody's done fucked up shit. Come on.
All right, well, so, we're almost towards the end anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, because in, actually 2021, they did, they found the Secretary of the Interior, who was Deb Haaland for the Native American thing there. They have mapped 53 burial sites where they were going to excavate at some point. They've excavated some of them and found, like I said, a bunch of children's bodies, many of whom are unidentified because, like I said, a lot of them died of disease and they just kind of buried them on the grounds, and they didn't really care enough, I guess, to mark the place. Like I said, I did see one where they had they did have grave markers there, and some of them had names on them, but a lot of them just said unknown,
Those kids are dead a long time, and their fucking family and all their descendants are all dead.
Well, they're not, though, because I just watched a documentary that was made a couple years ago.
You can't find them.
And a lot of them, like this one girl's sister was on there, like trying to find out where she was. You know,
they have to do DNA.
They probably will.
Yeah. So anyway.
So they're kind of trying to do that. Now Canada is a little bit ahead of us in this regard. They actually did do like a settlements called Truth and Reconciliation. I think it was like $5 billion, like over the thing where because they had a lot of this shit going on, same kind of shit going on, and they're kind of trying to make it right, I suppose. So so we're kind of getting on that train slowly as time goes on, and like I said, a lot of tribes are kind of trying to reclaim their cultural heritage, a lot of which was lost during this time period, like trying to reteach the children like the native languages and things of that nature. So there seem to be little baby steps in that regard, which is good, but man, I can't imagine. I mean, it's the shitty thing is that because this happened to a lot of them when they were kids or it happened to their parents, there's nothing they can do about it now, but they're still feeling the repercussions of it, and that's kind of shitty. It's like, because there's nothing you can do to fix it, really. It's like, yeah, they can give you some money. It's like, they can apologize and stuff like that, but it's like, it doesn't fix it. It's like, it's too late. Yeah. Like, the damage is done. So.
That was a long time ago.
I know, but like I said, just because something was a long time ago, that doesn't mean that the repercussions of it don't, like, reverberate throughout, and especially in this regard, because I think they really did. So. It just, I don't know. It just kind of sucks all around. It sucks all around.
All right. So is that it? Is that all of it?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, Tammy said they're doing a lot of powwows now to keep the traditional ways going. Yeah, I've been to a couple in my time. They used to do one in Daytona every year.
Damn, I made you a whole drink that big thinking that there was a bunch of show left. You're going to be fucking
Well, we can talk about it. We can talk about other stuff if you want. It's only 10 o'clock. And I don't have to get up early tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I will still because I have to feed the cats, but then I can maybe go back to bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can talk about other things.
Well, the show was the show.
If you want to.
There's not many people in the comments. There's not many people in the chat. So, we can answer questions. If not, then we just check out.
Kevin Smith just showed up. Said, Happy Thanksgiving, chat.
What's up?
Tammy said, I can't tell you how many Native Americans being grabbed up by ICE. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, there's a lot of fucking articles about that. Can you fucking imagine? It's like, my fucking family's been here for 10,000 years, bitch. And then suddenly it's like, because they think you're Mexican or some shit like that. Christ on a bike. It's just a whole thing. Yeah, I've seen a lot of news stories about that. But, yeah, not a great situation all around. But yeah, it's terrible.
All right, let's go ahead and shut it down then.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about other stuff?
Nah.
Are you sure?
Where's nobody in the chat? There's nobody in the chat.
All right, so I guess we're gonna.
Yeah. Let's do our Thanksgiving.
It's a little early, but like I said, I can stay up late. I mean, I was excited because I could stay up late tonight, and then I was like, I'll probably fall asleep because I woke up at fucking 5 in the goddamn morning. Because I had to pee, and then I got back in bed. I was like, whoa, it's only 5. I can go back to bed. Because I usually get up about 6:30, something like that. It's like, I'll just go back to bed for like an hour and a half. And I go back in bed, and of course I lay there, and I can't go back to sleep. And then at 6:30, little Bam Bam comes in, little baby. And she very polite. Well, she does the thing on the chair. At first, she's like, with her claws in the chair. And then she stops, waits to see what happens. And I was kind of like, oh, man. Then she goes, hey. And it was so funny because, like, I look over the edge of the bed, and I didn't see her. And I was like, I know she's in here. Where's she at? And then she did, and then I kind of laid down again. And then she's like, hey. Then I looked again, and I still didn't see her. And I was like, what the fuck? Then I laid back down, and she's like, hey. And then, like, I looked, and she was right there. She was, like, right next to the bed, staring at me. 6:30 in the morning. Please feed me. I was like, okay. So I'm kind of used to getting up at. Depends. She has woken me up at 5:30 in the morning before the sun even came up, and made me feed her. Usually she waits till the sun comes up, but not always. She doesn't jump on me or anything like that, but she'll sit like right on the floor, like next to the bed, and just yell. So there's that. Yeah, Tammy says, yeah, I'm nobody. Because you said nobody was in the chat. Hello?
There's like 6 people in it.
And that, yeah, Tammy was like, yeah, I'm nobody.
Yeah.
You offended the 6 people that were in the chat, Tom, is what she's saying.
Okay.
Oh my god. All right, so I guess we're going to wrap it up for this evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Yeah, so if you're in the United States and you're celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow, hopefully you have a good one. We're gonna have so much fucking food. I'm gonna try and sleep in and then just eat a lot and lay around. I really don't want to do anything tomorrow. I got a precious day off and I'm just gonna fucking use it. I'm just gonna lay around and watch movies and eat and not do anything. We'll see. I'll probably get up and do shit anyway, because I always do. But yeah, so hopefully you guys have a good time tomorrow. We'll be back on Friday night for the Sidetracks show, which we're not going out Friday night, so we'll be able to hang out with you guys all night. We're not going anyplace. We're going out Saturday night. Oh, I got some shit to talk about. I got some shit to talk about on the Friday night show. So yeah, that kind of happened last weekend. So yeah, we'll get into that on the Friday night show. We'll talk about that later. That's why I was kind of asking. I was like, you want to talk about that? We're not going to talk about that. So we'll talk about that on Friday. You'll see what we're saying. And yeah, so have a good Thanksgiving tomorrow if you're celebrating it. Have a good day Friday, and we'll see you guys again for the Sidetracks show on Friday night. Good